session of the Wall City Council. Attending is Councilmember Burrell, Councilmember Paul, Councilmember Saxton, you got the recorder going, Councilmember Yeoman, and Councilmember Tafoya. Since we don't have a flag of that, we're just going to turn the time over to you, Jason, and we'll get started.
All right. Mayor and Council, thanks for this wonderful opportunity to be able to present this budget. This is fiscal 19's budget proposal. It is our first stab at it. And Matt and I objective was hopefully one shot is all we got. So we're trying to make this a good one for you. So this is our fiscal 19 budget. We did send you guys something in the beginning to kind of give you a quick snapshot of expenditures and revenues. And we knew that that was just basically a snapshot, that the big discussion was going to come tonight. And that's why we're meeting. I do want to preface this with one statement, as I want to start this statement, is I know that we have elected officials and we have appointed officials. And I know the elected officials you're in a different ball game than some of us appointed officials. You report to the public, you're appointed by the public, and some of you have kind of certain things that you would like as part of your campaign. I get that. I think we all understand that, and it's our job to try to make that come pass for you and do things and create things in this budget that will hopefully be favorable for you. You guys have appointed me, not elected, I'm appointed by you to bring you a budget that is transparent, it makes sense, it's balanced, and there is no hidden agendas in this budget. It's going to be very straightforward, and you've got all your department directors here that are appointed as well, and this was kind of done collectively. So, without further ado, let's just hit this right out of the gates. Okay? Let's talk about the tax increase. Let's talk about what the percentage was, how much did we get, and where did it go. Okay, everybody good with that? In November of 2016, we raised property tax by 36%. This gave us roughly around $900,000. Okay, there was two reasons why the city raised property tax by 36%. That was to help with employees' retention, compression, and a merit-based pay scale. And the second was infrastructure / capital. Those were the reasons that we wanted to raise taxes. So basically, we were trying to cover the bleeding of losing employees to other cities, fix the compression issues of a tenured employee versus a new employee, and develop a merit-based plan system and capital infrastructure improvements. New council members. Compression. You may look at that and say, what is compression? Why did we have compression issues? Let me just explain that real quick. So when we were in a recession in 2008, Royse City did not do a merit increase for several years. Okay? When we did get a bump or we did get an increase, we basically got a COLA, which is just a cost of living. When you give someone, an employee, a COLA, basically this is how the COLA works. It raises the bottom number and the top number on your specific salary. So if you do that over a length of time, you're going to have an employee that's been here 7 or 8 years and an employee that's been here 1 year or basically just barely got hired. They're going to be at the same pay scale because of the way we were doing it, which we were compressed. And we're trying to fix that. So that's compression. Compression is a 7 or 8 year guy getting paid the same as a 1 year guy. And we wanted to fix that. And we actually had a huge compression problem in the city. Okay? When the city raised taxes, at that time in November of 2016, we did not have an employee merit-based system in place, nor did we have the compression fixed. Okay? So that money sat there November, December, January, February, March. So March of 2017, we sat in this very room, and I don't think that the mayor, council, or department directors were expected the outcome of this meeting. We were basically told, we raised the taxes, we haven't allocated these funds yet, and at that time we talked about the ice skating rink. So we basically spent about $900,000 in an hour. And it kind of gave off the impression that, hey, we raised taxes, we didn't have anything in place, and now all of a sudden we had to spend this money because the state says you can have between 5% and 25% in your reserves, okay? Well, at that point, and this was in prior years before, the council said we want to be around 18% in our reserve fund. We don't need to be at 25%. So with the increase in the taxes and the money that we had left over, we had to spend that money or we were going to be above the 25%. So we decided to go to the 18%, and that's why we had that much money to spend. Does everybody remember that meeting? Carl, I think you were gone, but Aaron stepped in, and so that's kind of what happened. Let me go to the next slide. Okay, so now fast forwarding to fiscal 18 in July, we then established the step plan and we separated the employees, and we did it by 80%. We couldn't do it 100%, but we could do it by 80%. So we did that by 80%. That was actually costed, was it $780?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's wrong. My $700,000, I thought I changed it. So when we fixed the compression and we implemented the STEP program, that cost the city $780,000 to do that. Okay? So now we begin fiscal 19's budget. We're now a year in, and we now have the STEP increase coming for the employees, which is going to cost about $323,000 to do that. So if you can just see right out of the gates, if we raise taxes and we got $900,000 for taxes, now we're about $1 million in wages and salaries and a step plan for the employees. So you can see that 36% is allocated. Okay, this is the first year that it's coming due. This is also just kind of some GWIZ information for you. Is look at some of our capital that we spent and some of the money that we spent on capital. So this last year, we purchased the fire engine. That fire engine was $604,000. We paid cash for the fire engine. We also set aside $337,000 for the ice skating rink. We put $270,000 into the basement. $930,000, which was the sale of North Park parking lot to America First. If you total those huge expenditures, just so you know, that's $2.1 million that we have spent. We didn't bond. We haven't done a monthly payment. I know I've heard the question, why did we spend $604,000 for a fire engine when we could have probably paid for that on a yearly basis so we could free up some money for capital? Good thought, good idea, but the reason that we as a mayor and council, and I suggested if we paid cash for it, number one, we save the taxpayers $50,000 in interest over a 5 or 6 year loan. But number two, if we paid for the chassis up front, we'd saved another $10,000 to do that. So we really saved about $60,000, which we thought was fiscally responsible. Okay, those are just my first 3 slides. Questions on those first 3 slides?
How much is the new ice rink going to cost?
So we did get the cost in. We budgeted around $550,000 for it, and it's coming within budget.
So you're indicating is the total price of the ice rink is $500,000, and the
It's about
ramp grant
$550,000.
is $300,000.
No,
The ramp grant's $200,000.
the ramp's 200,000.
So net output from the city would be to put the ice rink in is $300,000.
Yes.
Yeah, but we Mayor, already have that money set aside. That's not part of the new fiscal 19's budget.
I understand that. My concern is what chart you're going to show here in a couple of seconds. I just need to make sure where we are on that.
Okay.
Because when you get to the fiscal year 18 to 19 comparison,
Mhm.
that's the shell shock, if these numbers are correct. But continue.
Yeah.
I think that's the one we got to focus on, because that's the big one.
Yeah, and we'll have some good explanations for that, but I just wanted to make sure before we moved on, do we have any questions on the tax increase, where it went, why it went there?
Not on the tax increase. I have a question on the ice rink.
Okay?
I think it's a good idea. Is the location we're putting it the best location for it? Where we've got limited parking and it's in a retention basin?
Aesthetically, I love the location. I think it ties in with the Christmas lights. I think it's really good on that front. Some of the challenge, no doubt, are parking. You know, I mean, it's going to be a little bit of an issue if it has the opportunity to be as successful as we think it's going to be. Parking could be a challenge. We do have the Jason Elementary School. We do have the up top parking up here.
I mean, I agree with you aesthetically. I think it's the best place for it. I was just concerned about it being in a retention basin and the parking issue.
As far as the retention basin, we've met with Wasatch Civil from an engineering perspective. They have no concerns about that part of it.
The only thing, are we going to have a dialogue on that later?
Oh, yeah.
Is this
Oh,
all
yeah.
I'm talking
There's
about?
No, we're gonna be here for a while, so I
Okay.
just wanted to hit on some key points, but yeah, I just wanted to go over, because I knew the tax increase was big, and basically I just wanted to hit that right square up front, very first, so we can kind of go over that. Okay, everybody good so far? Okay, I just handed you guys our strategic plan, mayor and council, January 2017. We met in Salt Lake, and we developed kind of a strategic plan with what are our top 5 objectives, and on each objective, we listed 3 initiatives for each one that we wanted to meet this year. But before I get into that, I specifically put this vision statement on there because I know this is DeForey's baby. He loves this vision statement with the passion, and I was wondering if he wanted to read the vision statement, or if he wants
If
me
you
to
offer
read
me
it.
50 bucks, I'll read it.
Okay.
That's what we did to the workforce.
Okay, on the vision statement, we created the vision statement, kind of coincides with our strategic plan, but I wanted to tell you this, as we built this strategic plan, we built it along with the budget. Okay, so we tried to align our budget with the strategic plan. So this work plan and budget we have prepared for you for this next year is aligned with the City Council strategic plan, and in large part determines how the city spends its available funds. The top 5 initiatives that are set in place are community pride, economic development, infrastructure, workforce development, and traffic. Those are our 5 initiatives. So let's look at community pride. We're going to go over each one of those 3, and let's talk about how we are, and are we going to be able to meet those goals. So number 1, we will complete the first phase of North Park in 2017, and identify funding and in order to complete Phase 2 of this park in 2018 as a point of civic pride and attraction to the area. We feel like as staff, and I know we've talked about it a lot with the mayor and council, we will complete this initiative on the community pride for North Park this year. We feel like we will be done. There'll be a couple funding mechanisms that we talk about in this budget meeting tonight that tries to help us get North Park finished, but we feel as staff we will complete it. I know that's been a big topic on social media. I know it's widely used for residents in that area. It's packed. It was packed today, and it's been great. There's been a lot of talk about it, so we think we'll get that done. Number 2, administration has allocated a budget line item for beautification efforts. We've been doing beautification. We've had a beautification committee. We've got street lights right now from the Sunset North borderline all the way to 48, both on the east and the west side of the street. So we're working with beautification. Beautification is always going to be an ongoing need. Okay? The city will use various methods to amplify our code enforcement efforts, including dedicating more staff to finding and reporting violations and blighted areas and promoting the new website's ability to allow citizens to report complaints. A work in progress, let me give you an update. Okay, we hired a new code enforcement officer today. Sorry, Jeff, you're going to lose a guy, but he is going to,
I knew he was going.
It's going to be absolutely awesome for the city. So as part of our community pride, and number 3, we're working with code enforcement, and I believe that we got the right guy in the position that's going to go out and be fair, but be consistent, and follow through is going to be key. He's really good at follow through. So,
Jason, I know it's off topic, but did you, if I figure out code, are we doing administrative citations? Did you take care of that?
okay, so,
Send that to us.
huh?
It's an action item because you
Okay,
brought it
all
up.
right.
But I think Dave's spot on. We like what you were talking about, but you got to present to the council a recommendation to shift it from a judicial issue to more
Civil.
of a civil.
Right.
And I think the
Yeah.
council is pretty receptive. Just recognize that we've been there, and so if you're going to bring it back to that, help us to understand, help the council
Better
understand how
layout.
it's going to be different.
Yeah, and I have no problem with that. And now that the employee's last day was today, we had a little shindig for him, and off he is. I didn't want him to pull up our city council meeting minutes and me say we've got the wrong person in the wrong position. So I can say now, yes, we're going to take care of code enforcement. I feel like we got the right guy in the right position who is really good at follow through. He knows the community. He's been involved for 30 years. It's going to be great, and I think you'll see a change. Yes, we do want to go civil versus judicial. Yes, we were doing that before. Were we consistent? Probably not. Were we enforcing? Not really. And how was the follow through? Probably could have been better.
Just like the mayor said, just something at council meetings.
I will. Yep, I will. Okay, that's community pride. Okay, so I feel like we're going to knock off a big one. That's North Park, which I think we're all excited for, including Travis. Economic development. To foster economic development in our city to enhance the amenities available to our residents. Achieve the governor's business-friendly community designation. Still a work in progress. Okay? Allocating funding specifically for economic development needs such as economic development plan. I feel like, and being a part of Mayor Dan Doyle's team on economic development, they meet regularly, they meet often. We just had a meeting with the movie theater. It's moving forward, and I can say in the year 2017, I feel like it was stagnant, okay? And I think it's because we didn't have people in place that we have now with new council members and a new mayor to get in and get after it. So
Yeah, let me just give you an update
Yeah.
if I can. And this is really a lot of people engaged on it, but we're working, as Jason indicated, on the theater company. They've set some kind of rules, issues they need to be able to make it workable, and we're looking at those options. I know Brian's been calling everybody he can. I will tell you, this public announcement, just got the information from Woodbury just a few minutes ago. They got 4 offers on 2 facilities right there by Harmon's, the Fentana, Fonterra, yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Mexican restaurant, looks like they got offers on that, and they got
Tear it down?
offers.
No, that's on the corner.
I know, but
Just a
an
little
offer to
hard.
tear it down.
Yeah, but the
Those on-
Chinese one, they got offers on that, and the plan is, they're proposing to knock that building down and putting new buildings up at that location. And I think that'll be a nice addition right at that location, so that building needs to go. So, but we're seeing some progress in terms of trying to drive economical development.
While
Okay.
you're, go ahead.
I was going to say, just because we presented a plan when we were doing Focus, our Focus,
Yes.
Focus
Roy.
Roy?
Yeah, that area, and about how to kind of like plan it out similar to like what's going on. So I just want to make sure that that's kind of in our mind as we're meeting with the developers and stuff, kind of a vision we'd like to see to kind of rework that whole
The
area.
whole area, right.
Yep, okay,
Yeah, and
that's
one of the things
perfect.
I was wanting to hope to see, and we'll keep pushing Woodbury. And Woodbury would be the one to knock the building down, and Woodbury would be the one to have to resurrect a new one, which is the
Okay.
plan. Where's that stage? The Focus Roy
Yeah.
was kind of pushing it more towards the
Towards the street,
sidewalk,
yep,
and then allowing us to get a pretty good
Side.
front there.
right.
And so we'll encourage to make sure that they stay with that
Okay,
idea.
okay, perfect.
Have we talked to Harmon's anymore about the gas station? I know they've kind of backburnered it, but
Nobody's talked to
I'd
them.
really like to get that off the curb.
But I think they're basically over
It
the
expired.
period.
It expired, so now they have to resubmit a new proposal and a new business plan for that because the last one expired.
Right.
So,
So that's going to allow then a little bit of a shift in terms of whether they want to, we want them to put a gas station out front. So it's got to be a conversation. I think the planning commission will take that up when they come.
Right.
But it's a good argument that I think we need to look at. How does that fit in the overall scheme of
Yeah.
that?
Make sure that that looks good.
Well, with some of the other proposals we've looked at that are far out for Woodbury, I mean, it doesn't fit very well, but I know for that type of business for Harmon's, gas is a big commodity.
It is.
You look at Smith's put gas stations in, all your Walmarts now are starting to put in gas stations.
Harmon's hasn't gone that way anywhere though, have they?
I don't know that they have good
Haven't seen
locations too,
any
because City
down
Creek,
south.
No, they don't have any.
Walmart
Yeah.
has started.
But I haven't seen it with any Harmon, so I'm not sure that's in there.
I think the planning commission, maybe that's an action, just the planning commission needs to relook at that. I think locating that right at the front may take away from our ultimate vision.
some of it, so you can't put one there.
It may not fit there.
Yeah, I agree.
It might fit back in the back, it may fit somewhere else, but not necessarily right out front.
I agreed.
So maybe that's something we can work with the planning commission to see
Okay.
how we can work
No,
it.
no, that sounds great.
Perfect. And then the last one on economic development is develop an economic page on the city's website with information about businesses in town, land inventory for development, and location of the city's RDA agencies. Do we have that on the city's website? Morgan shaking her
No, I
head
don't
I
think
no.
would
there.
say no,
Okay.
because I don't
Will you-
remember seeing
Okay, will you
that.
I
write a note?
highlighted it.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's going to make the website more user-friendly,
Okay,
but
okay, we'll work on that
I
part.
feel like
have you played around with it?
Yeah.
I have.
And what?
I actually talked to Dave about this and Mark.
Okay,
I
good.
feel like those buttons are what really confuse people. And I feel like there's a lot of subtopics that aren't necessary. I feel like if you have a general idea, if you just click on that, I think the subtopics are what confuse people. There's like 3 different options for city council. It's in like 3 different places.
Oh.
I don't feel like that's necessary. I've looked at a couple other cities' websites and how, if I like it or if I don't, if I feel like it's user-friendly. I think that the community wants more information, but they don't know where to find it, and they don't, like, I don't know, I think it'd be hard to put, like, all of our businesses on our website.
Agreed.
You know what I mean? Like, Google it if you want to know what businesses are in Roy. But that's my personal, as a millennial, like, just, you can figure it out. But you know what I
If I was looking
mean?
for a business, I'm not gonna go to Roy City's website. I'm gonna Google it and find out where the business is located. I'm gonna go to the Roy City website to look for Roy City.
How do I pay my utilities?
Yeah, utility, administration,
Yeah.
zoning, ordinance codes, questions about my,
Yeah.
paying my utilities. That's what I'm gonna go for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have looked at it, and Mark was going to talk to. There's a couple of things with redesign. He thinks that we can change certain things, but other things are going to be a redesign, which we would have to pay additionally for.
Ooh.
So that's where he's trying to figure out what we have to pay more for, or versus what they can just say, oh, this is what you need to do to change this.
You want
So.
to pay
This
for it.
budget question, did we sign a 3-year contract with these people, or is it year?
I don't know.
I don't know,
I
I'll
don't
have to
know.
look.
Let's find that out.
Okay, make
You
that.
could probably go get a Weber State graphic design, web design person to do it
That's
better.
what I was thinking.
And let it be part of their project.
I looked into that when we had the old website, and they started at $35 an hour to
Really?
donate their time.
They gotta pay for their college somehow.
Yeah,
Let's check on
and we
it.
talked about that in last council meeting. We'll try to get on top of it, so.
And I know, we went into it with high hopes, hoping that this would update it. And it is 100% better than what it was before.
It just may not be as user-friendly.
Is somebody
It's-
managing the Facebook page?
Yes.
I do.
Okay.
I think we need to turn a little bit of the control to individual departments. I know that was, in my department, some of the grief was how it was originally set up. We didn't really have control of it.
You had to go everything through Amy.
There you go.
Amy and
You
Laura.
know, there you go. And I'm not trying to throw anyone under the
No.
bus, but we can clearly give headers that are going to get more people to understand where they want to go than what are there. You know, I don't know if it's something that we can task individuals within our department to play with to help make it better and simpler, but it's not. It's, from my end, you can type in, or you can click on for community, it might be recreation, or it might be under services. I'm not even sure, and I've been to it 100 times. You know, and I think if you would turn a little bit of the power of it back over to individual departments, they could make it a lot better, because they weren't given that at the time of setup.
Right, and I'm totally okay with that. Morgan's really
Totally
good with
okay with
kind of
that.
that stuff, so let us kind of work through it, but we'll dive into it and we'll look at how we can make our website a little bit more
Yeah.
user-friendly.
I think it's a good idea to contact the department heads, because if you guys,
Because you have a
because
totally
you hear
separate
back.
one.
No,
Especially
in
Parks
full
and Rec.
disclosure, in full disclosure, we're on a different one called Rec One. That I mean, it goes through ours and you can link to it,
But
but
it's
it's how
still
we
part
have
of
to sign
Civic
up
Plus.
and play sports
Okay.
and
It's still
Okay.
part of
things
that
like that.
website.
But I think if you would go to it, you would find that it's simpler than our main city webpage is. It's not perfect, but I think it's simpler. I think it's easier for people to navigate their way through it.
Yeah.
Jason, it's yours.
Okay,
Figure out what you want to do.
okay.
Organs.
Number 3, infrastructure. We need to develop, fund, and execute a plan for ongoing replacement for aging infrastructure. Number 1, the city will commission utility rate studies to revise utility rates in the face of bonding for infrastructure needs. We don't like to bond, okay? Right now, in our water and sewer utility fund, we have close to $5 million bond that we're paying $500,000 a year on. Is that right, Matt? And what we get out of that after 20 years is 20-year-old aged infrastructure that we're paying $500,000 for. That's a problem.
And let me interject here, though.
Okay.
You gotta step back and realize
Okay.
the pipes are made anywhere from 50 to 75 years. So
Okay,
we have to
perfect.
factor that into that. It's not, yes, we're 20 years old, but they still have another life value of 30 to 45 years on top of that.
Okay.
So just
Yeah,
throw
good
that
point,
out there.
okay, good point. We are going to talk about, number one, the city will commission utility rate studies. We did a utility study that we have prepared to give that to you guys when we get to utility funds, so keep that in mind. Administration will coordinate with departments to develop a capital improvement plan to determine and prioritize a replacement schedule for the city's infrastructure. I have done that. I've got with each department, I have that complete, and it's done. Number three, the city will implement a vehicle replacement plan to schedule, plan, and fund replacement of city vehicles. We have got that complete, and it's done. So number 2 and number 3 are done. Number 1, we have that prepared for you tonight. Workforce development. Invest in the development of talented and committed workforce to improve service levels for residents and businesses in our community. Number 1, the city will implement a pay increase to alleviate wage compression among its workforce, as well as implement a step increase plan for all employees. This plan also incorporates regular salary comparisons surveys to ensure we are competitive with surrounding cities. Let's talk about that for just a sec. We fixed the compression. We implemented a step program that's in place to help us with this. We've done those two, and we're currently having a third party that's in our city right now that's looking at job descriptions and comparing our salaries to other like cities in our neighboring counties. We're doing that right now. I feel like if you look at number 1, I feel like we've done number 1. Okay? Number 2, implement a supervisor training program. That's pretty simple. I think the individual department heads can put people in different in-house trainings, or, just recently, was it a month ago or 2 months ago, you sent your administrative assistants to, about a month ago, we sent all of our admin assistants to Salt Lake for a 2-day training, and it was perfect. Morgan just went to a training on recorder stuff. I think we're doing that, and I think it's up to individual departments to go ahead and keep that up. So I feel like 1 and 2 is done.
Can I ask you
Yeah.
something on number 1? Is it merit-based in any of that?
Merit-based,
Okay.
yep. And with the merit-based, what that does is it moves people throughout their steps in a timely fashion. That's the nice part about it. Where I think our low salary and our high salary, and department directors, please feel free to jump in anytime you want. I feel like we haven't been too far out of the game as far as being competitive with our low-end salary and our high-end salary. It's just been moving people throughout that range, so when they retire, they're somewhere at the top of their steps. So when they retire, they have their last 3 years. That's been our problem. Anybody want to?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, it's, from the fire department, that's been our issue. Our issue was my guys between like 8 and 12, 13-year guys that were here through 2008, through the recession, that wasn't through that merit-based system. And those are the guys that we were losing. The people we put time and effort into training them and working them through their career, and they hit that spot. The merit system is going to be really good for us in the fact that in a few years, once we start working through that merit system, we'll catch up where we need to be. And it was a really good move. I know the employees are appreciative of it, and you can already see some of those changes. I've already had people come back that have left and have come back to our department, that have left and went to, we even pulled somebody from Murray down south that decided to come here just because of our merit system. So those are all good things in the positive direction.
So let me just make a comment. I appreciate that, Jeff. Particularly public safety is probably going to be the biggest piece of this conversation, but I think it's applicable to all of them. First thing is, I'm talking at the WACOG that simply says we've got to stop competing against government. You heard and read in the paper recently, Ogden just had to raise, its salaries for its police officers, I believe. And it could have been public safety in general, in large part, because they were, again, losing more of them. And so we're feeding off each other.
Weaver County did the same thing.
Yeah, and so that nonsense has to stop somewhere. Government should not compete against government. I'm talking to my fellow mayors and the council and commissioners, and I'm saying is, there needs to be a stop to this. I'll tell you one thing that's being considered, and you need to think about how this needs to work as this unfolds. It appears the newly elected or proposed elected people are asking, this simply says, what do we need to do? And they're thinking this needs to be more of a state issue. They need to unify in terms of standardizing across the state these retirement plans or this approach. I don't know what that means, but you two do. And if the answer to this is to get the legislators to start talking seriously about trying to find some standardization at the state level, maybe at the county level we can find a solution where you don't have to rob. And I'll tell you, if nothing else, the mayors were making this comment. It's hard to compete against Salt Lake. Carl,
I don't
you
know
it's
that
better
we
than
should
anything.
try to compete against Salt Lake. That
there's-
should be a different animal.
It's a $10 increase.
I know.
And they're
$10 an
competing with
hour.
Denver, Las Vegas. They're on a whole different level.
Well, it's hard to compete against a city that has a greater tax base than we have.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Understand.
Absolutely, yeah.
But you see the problem. The problem is that you could very well lose all your talent, send them to Salt Lake because they can push $10 more an hour. I can't talk to that, but I think we can talk at the county level about trying to bring some stability in this so we're not robbing each other.
And that's been a huge problem for us, Mayor. We've lost people to Weaver Fire District, Northview, Riverdale, Brigham City. We're losing people to those entities within our own county or right on our county border
Yeah.
that have been, it's been an issue.
If we can get this dialogue to take place at the legislative level, and you two need to think this through, but I think there's applicability to all the departments, then I may be coming to you, or I may send them to you that says, talk to the experts, what can the state do to bring some stability to this discussion? And they're going to be looking for answers, and they won't do this in isolation. I hope they're talking to a lot of people, but we need solutions here. We can't keep being a training ground, or as now Ogden is faced, they're now facing, where they're losing people, they have to now go again and increase pay to be able to bring people back. It's just feeding itself. We need a solution.
You know, when I got here, within the first year, I lost a third in my department. I lost my entire records crew. And with what you've done, that's stabilized. We're in a really unique position.
Yeah.
That we now are stealing from everybody.
Right.
And we've got nobody looking at Salt Lake. If they want to go to Salt Lake, we can't compete,
Right.
but they have to look at a different type of job and the commute.
Yeah.
For us, we're not losing, and we've got great candidates that we're picking from. And to be completely honest, if the other agencies want to fix their bleeding, they got to fix their leadership. These agencies that are losing people, they got really crappy leadership.
Is
And they
that-
treat their employees crappy, and then they wonder why they leave.
Yeah.
I only know it from my perspective, Mayor, and from schools, they haven't done a statewide school salary. You know, Davis County is very different than Weber County, is different than Ogden City. But you work in the community where you want to work with different benefits. My roommate worked in Davis County her whole career, and she made more money than I did, but her facilities weren't nearly as nice, nor her compensations. There were other compensations. So I think if you stay within a competitive range, it doesn't have to be equalized. Would be my perspective
Well,
on
that might very well be. The challenge I think we're finding is that we're, obviously from the comment, I appreciate that, we're on a good side now. Life is good for Roy City. But again, I read in the paper where Ogden now facing the problem is now going to have to adjust their wages to be more competitive. And therefore, they could very well, if they make the right move, 20 cents, 50 cents, $1 more an hour, they could begin start robbing from us again. And the sheriff's department could be a good feeder for all of us. But my comment really is centered on the idea is that we're public servants, and public servant government should not compete against public servant government. We should standardize to the level that we can. Now, I don't know if that's way beyond us, all of us, but if the legislators are willing to put bills in, and we got a whole batch of them coming at us. By the way, if you're going to go to the conference, you're going to hear a lot of this stuff that's coming down. The point I want to suggest is, is a lot of stuff got passed in the budget, to me, doesn't make much sense. But what does make sense, if there's things they can do at the state level to standardize and help us with retirement issues, some of the things that just bleed us, and fix some of those problems for all of us, all the public servants, then I think that's a good first step. And then we're going to try to work things within the county to see if we can't do something within the county to help us to stabilize at least. But you're right, Chief, we can't compete with Salt Lake.
Well, and here's the problem, we have a shortage for us. We have a shortage of police officers statewide. And Salt Lake has the money to draw people from every place. And the other problem is the new retirement system, the Tier 2 retirement system. Nobody wants to come into it.
Right.
And to be completely honest, when we were down at our chiefs meeting, they have told us that no matter what we do, when we talk about the retirement issue, do not bring up Dan Lillenquist's name, who passed that through, because he goes after every politician and every police chief who attacks his retirement system. So they told us, whatever you do, don't bring his name up because it hurts us. At some point, at your level, you have to go after Dan Lillenquist if you want to fix the state retirement level.
But it's not only a public safety issue, it's retirement in general.
Yeah.
Parks and Rec, now
That's
to a
absolutely.
35-year?
No.
Are you kidding me?
That's the reality. The state level's not gonna get it,
No.
okay? It is what it is. They're not gonna invest more money into it, they're gonna make it tougher, just like Carl said, for people to do.
And they're just
That
gonna leave the
is
city
trend.
to fix it.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, I mean, the mayor says, great, it would happen, the reality is, it's not going that direction.
Yeah.
It's going the opposite of that.
Right.
And when it comes down to it, that's not a great thing to talk about. I'm not for it, but if you wanted to be unified, it has to be a unified police force, fire force. Communities get involved, okay, we're no longer Roy, we're no longer Riverdale, we're unified, Weaver County, whatever you want to call it. That is the only way to do it. They become their own tax.
You're talking
entity,
like a
so-
consolidated
Right.
district, okay.
But that's politics.
Right.
And that's a
Well,
tough call.
you look out in industry and government's about the only group left that has a pension plan. Even my work did away with the pension plan 2 years ago. They bought us all out of a pension plan, and then they just contribute a higher percentage into our 401k. It gets the liability off of them and onto the individual employee. State may eventually go that way. I don't know, but
But there's a point for public safety that people aren't gonna, if you don't give me that, there's no point in me risking. my
Oh, I
life.
get it.
That's right.
Right, so, that's the trade-off there. Yeah, exactly what you said.
what is it? Is public safety 25 now?
Tier 2's 25.
And only 36%.
Yeah.
That's the kicker.
They should have kept the percentage and just went out 5 years.
And there's been some legislature that
Tier
has
two
tried
is
to push
terrible.
through to do that. And we're hoping, that's our hope, is the 25-year thing's probably there to stay, but we're hoping they'll adjust the percentage, is what we're hoping, but.
It's basically 22.5% cut in retirement is what it equates out to.
So the good news on our strategic plan is we've stopped the bleed and we have a good workforce that seems to be happy. Yeah, pay is a big thing, but pay is not number one. Do we have good leadership? Are we taken care of? What's the benefits like? What's the work environment like? Those are critical things. So Carl and I attended a conference and they asked like, what's the top 5 reasons employees stay with a company? Believe it or not, pay was not number 1. Pay was number 3, but there's other factors that we try to maybe cover that gap a little bit, where we a little bit better place than Ogden. In fact, we had Ogden people apply to come to Roy, knowing that they're on a 9-step system and we're not, but it's the overall environment. So, okay, real quick, number 3.
Asked me to make sure I do my part.
The city will commit to provide adequate staffing for the demands placed on our workforce. In this budget year, we fell short of this a little bit. We had to cut some employees' requests, honestly, because we didn't have the funding for it. We had some money to cut. We had to cut it somewhere. That was one of the key places. Okay, traffic. We're almost done with this.
Seems to be moving good.
Improving east-west traffic flow by partnering with state agencies and neighboring communities. We have been working on that. Bob, especially, I'll toot his horn a little bit, has been active in the Wasatch Front Regional Council. I think he's part of their committee now. So we have key people now in place to get us where we need to be. Honestly, before, it was a little rough. We just didn't quite get it. Bless his heart. Work with state legislators to widen the 5600 South project in the state's queue.
He's so tactful.
We're working on that. We are in phase 2. It doesn't look like we're going to get out of phase 1 or into phase 1. It looks like we're going to stay with phase 2. But we have our
Where? What are you?
that's widening 56.
Oh, widening.
UDOT's got 2
Okay.
phases, phase
Okay.
1 and phase 2. We're still in phase 2. We've been told by some of the legislators to get you into phase 1. It's going to be very tough, probably not going to happen.
So it goes backwards then.
Yeah.
So
Phase
two-
1, Phase 2, Phase 3.
Yeah.
But let me give you an update, because I think it's important to understand where we are in this journey. The environmental impact study has started. That's $1 million a year for the next 3 years to assess 55 and 5600, to be that corridor. The policy is very clear. After 3 years, that study will be completed. And then they have 3 years, okay, from that approval of that environmental impact study to take action. If they don't get that action started in those 3 years, they have to start all over again.
So it could be 6 years.
Oh, my God.
But here's the part. I'm talking to UDOT. UDOT says the fact is we got the study moving. It's an excellent chance we will get that put probably in the 22, 23 timeline. We're still working that. But if I can in the subcommittees and the Wasatch Front Regional Council keep pushing that 56, because we got a problem there. It is a big problem. And we've got to fix that.
Well, and that road's falling apart. Have you driven it up lately?
I'm
like
concerned
driving on the
about the
moon.
bridge. I'm concerned about a variety of things there. But the bottom line is that here's what I think could happen. This thing will be over by 2021. The study will be finished. And we got 2022, 2023, or 2024, they have to start to be able to not have to redo the entire study. That's about 3 years early. It'll be on the forefront of that. And everybody I've talked to at the UDOT is saying is the fact that you got the environmental study going is a pretty good shot. You'll get it within that 3-year window after it's completed, which is the best we can hope for. So
Right.
we'll just keep pushing it, and hopefully we'll get that resolved. And my concern right now is 3,500. 3,500 literally has been stopped, and it will come to a close at 1,800.
Yeah,
And I
why?
That's all it's
Funding.
money for.
Just run out of money.
Yeah.
Davis County line.
Money
Yeah.
trees died.
And you read in the thing, we took a vote the other day, and we're trying to push Davis County of all things to see if at least we can get the Legacy Freeway coming down through the lower part of Davis County, at least get it to 1,800 instead of Antelope Drive. Isn't it irony? The fact is that we in Weber County are not going to get any part of that. But we know we got to get, at least to get to 1,800, so it's just a short jump to get into Weber County so we can start the environment, get the economical impact that's going to bring to that part of the community. But it is politics by its purest form, so just be aware we're still working.
I know it's pie in the sky, but we need to also look for the future for our own selves. I kind of mentioned this before. Me and Ross kind of threw it back. Yeah, there's roadblock to 5,200. Make that go all the way
Oh,
east
we
and
talked
west.
about that a long
Right,
time. I remember
right.
that.
I know UDOT says no more train overpasses, but it doesn't mean we can't go under
That's true.
either way. So they're just,
Yeah,
it's out there.
52.
Take a
Yeah,
lot of
52
stress
would
off
be
the bottom part of
Yes.
Roy.
So, yeah, many hurdles to jump, but just a discussion, and other
Yeah.
options that we control that. We don't have to rely on the state, but yes, it's millions of dollars. just
Right.
so we know.
Well, and at some point, I don't know, do you look at widening 4,000 up to 1,900? I mean, I know their whole plan was to come up 4,000 and go to the bridge to
It's
nowhere,
never gonna happen.
but it doesn't happen. You still have people coming up 4,000, and, because you've got the train station there. I mean, literally, and so you know, I don't know how city partnerships work, but, you know, Hooper and West Haven are feeding their people through our town to get to the train station or to get to the freeway. Is there something we can do as a regional group to work together?
That's the WACOG. The WACOG has funding that looks at those kind of projects. And since I'm on the subcommittee, I can definitely see the funding. But Ross, it really starts us applying for those projects through your office to get them up for consideration and then use the funding that WACOG has available to be able to get those funded. So maybe we just need to have some vision about what we think we can do. And if the answer is over on 44, or the answer is basically on 4,000,
54.
then maybe we start pushing an agenda because we can get funding for that. I just don't know what the cost would be.
Just stuff to check out, look into, on both of them.
Okay, so, Mayor mentioned about the impact study, which was number 3. We do have established in the general plan. We do have that. We got a grant from the Wasatch Front Regional Council for the general plan, and we already had matching funds for it. And right now, Wasatch Civil is working on a transportation plan. So when we come to traffic, we're doing everything we can currently to try to get these projects up in the queue, really. So, okay. Fiscal 19 budget, here we go. I feel like we're ahead of schedule this budget year compared to last budget year. Last budget year, we met almost exactly a year ago to the day. So we met May 9th. Just so you know, when we met on May 9th of last year and we were presented the budget, we were still, at that point, $480,000 short of a balanced budget. We were not balanced when we met a year ago on May 9th. We still were short almost $500,000. I can tell you today that Matt has worked his tail off, and right now as it sits, we have a balanced budget. What does a balanced budget mean? Expenditures meet revenues. Okay, so right now we have a balanced budget, which we feel pretty good about. Okay, department directors, feel free to chime in on this one. We bring to you today a balanced budget. This was accomplished on February 9th and 10th with all department heads and myself at our budget retreat. This first part of the budget process was done collectively, openly, with full transparency. We were all part of it. We presented our individual budgets to everybody. I feel like the department heads got a good snapshot of what the budget really is and not their own individual departments. I don't know if you guys want to speak openly on it. Council members, mayor, ask them anything you want. That's the nice thing about an open budget, no agendas. It's transparent, and so if we want to take this minute, now's the time.
So did anybody like chime in on other people's budget and go, oh, you need to do that, and why are you doing that? And
We talked about it a lot.
how did you like that? Because I know that's never been done in the past.
It was nice for a
Couple
change.
swear words going
Not
on.
for me.
I felt like I had been singled
He
out.
just threw you under the bus, Ross.
I felt that it was unfair I had to wear a tux the first day, but other than
I
that.
see that.
Yeah, the tux.
That was a lovely
Why?
picture.
Okay, why?
I will say this, I
I want to know that story.
It was fascinating to be educated on a lot of things, from their budgets, their wants, their needs. Utility, I found fascinating. I personally haven't dealt in the utility budget much. It made me, I can't speak for anyone else, more knowledgeable. None of us got everything we asked for. None of us got everything we wanted. In the same breath, our leader pointed out the objectives he had, and I think we were all very comfortable trying to help him achieve those objectives.
The tux story. This is a classic story. When we sent you a picture, there was a lot of comments. Wow, Chief was dressed to impress. Why is everybody else underdressed? So here's how it started. The night before, I sent out a group text to everybody. Hey, we'll meet at 7 sharp, and it's just casual day except for the police chief. He has to come in tux. Ha ha, we left it at that. Nothing else was said. Carl says, I'll just meet you there because I'm coming from Salt Lake. So it doesn't make sense to drive from Salt Lake to Roy to hop in a pool car and go. So he says, okay. So we're all out of the cars and we're walking and we hear this horn honking and the lights flashing and we look and here comes Carl and he comes into the front ramp and all we can see is from here up and we all went, he's in a tux. So we all thought, oh my gosh, he thought the message was serious. We're like, oh, we're in trouble. So he gets out, he's got tennis shoes on, and we're like, oh. It worked really good. But it worked really good, but.
I was ordered to wear a tux. Disparate treatment, I'll be filing my suit later on.
I got a question for you guys. I mean, it's great you guys do it, it's open and honest, but in order to make it work for the future, you gotta make sure, hey, we gotta share the love.
Right.
Meaning, I don't get everything this year, this person gets it the next year. That's what it's about, working it that way to make sure everybody gets a fair shake every time.
That's the nice part, is they saw what other departments' needs were. And they don't just look at it as my individual department, they look at it as citywide. And that's the key.
Well, I think in like fleet, you know, you're talking about, so, okay, yeah, we might need a fire trucker and we need a couple police cars, okay, but then Travis pipes up and goes, okay, well, I got a couple of lawnmowers that are duct tape's not holding anymore, so, oh, well, I didn't realize that you had a lawnmower that was, you know, that. Do you know what I mean? I think that's, as far as like having that communication and that openness, to be able to share the love and go, okay, I can live with my police cars. I think the city needs a couple of lawnmowers.
I think the impressive part of the whole, you know, process was there was nobody that was selfish. We asked people about things and, well, do you think you need this more? I mean, I thought it was as collaborative as
But I
you
think
could-
transparency creates that collaboration.
Yeah, it was good.
So when you did your budget, did you start with like last year and build on that, or did you start from scratch?
Yeah, Matt.
last year and build on that. Took out kind of the one-time expenses and gave them their operational from
How do you
last year.
feel that was? Something we've started doing, and it's interesting because a lot of private industry do it and you're held accountable for it, as zero-based budgeting.
Yes.
You start from the ground and build up. So.
Could do it.
And I know I can't speak for anyone else. I talked with each of my individual superintendents about going through every line item in their budget. You know, do you have too much money? Do you not have enough? I mean, you need to go through everything and not just say, well, we're starting off with $5,000. That seemed to work last year. I know Ross had his people do the same thing. It's something that, you know, we take great pride in trying to be fiscally responsible, and I know my superintendents do, and I think we pseudo do that right now.
I think that's a happy medium to
I think
look at everything.
Yeah.
I think if you did zero base, you'd still have to start from somewhere. You'd still
Yeah.
have to say. this is
They'll
how
look at
much
their
I
last
had.
budget year's
Yeah.
item and say, okay, this is where we're at. Let's see where we're spent year to date. Okay, let's start there. So it's kind of the same, but yeah. Okay. All department heads had to cut certain capital needs and some departments had to cut new employees from their budget proposal. We were all together. And we all kind of thought it was funny when Travis, not really funny, but Travis was one of the end ones. So as
Like
we
the
got
last
to
one to
his,
go up?
yeah, and as we
Okay.
got to his budget, he said out loud, well, I can already see where this is going, you know, and all the other departments chuckled and laughed, but that's the open and transparent part of it, so. Okay, if you look at fiscal 18 versus fiscal 19 comparisons, what we did is we sent you a revenue side and we sent you expenditure side. And you're gonna know that when you look at both of them, we'll be able to explain some of the large discrepancies. As you can see in fiscal 19, revenue is down substantially.
I got a revenue, I got a expense, I didn't get a revenue side.
So you should have fiscal 18 versus 19 comparison, you'll have
Yes,
revenue
we're-
on one and then
Oh, on the
expenditure.
email, we just gave out expenses, that's correct. But
You're just talking
on this,
about
just
budget
for
sheet.
this, yeah, for this presentation, this
Oh,
is
it's
the
in
revenue.
here.
Correct,
Yeah,
yep.
this one. And
Yep.
it would draw my attention and help us walk through this.
We will.
Jason, and
Yep.
Matt. This is about this is $1.5 million difference.
Yeah, and we
Correct.
can explain that. So let's just start with revenue,
So,
taxes.
To just go off of taxes, so you're talking property taxes, sales taxes, franchise fees.
Correct.
The big difference, we don't have the property taxes in yet. The difference in property taxes would just be new infrastructure. So that hasn't been accounted yet, but we have a little bit of an increase. The trends are going up with sales tax, but we have to account that we're going to be losing roughly 1.8% for a new bill that came out for the population
Correct.
portion of the sales tax. But I still feel it's going to be up a little bit. Our trends are moving upward.
And you've put that.
And I put
you've
that
figured
in, so you
into
can see that it
budget.
went up. 80, yeah,
Not
so,
much. Kept it pretty conservative.
yeah. License and permits, that's going to be your building permits and things like that. Kept that flat. Things are kind of on schedule where they're at now. I don't see an influx of major improvements there. Intergovernmental, you can see a major difference in there. That's going to be, last year we had the ramp grant for the pavilion. We had the ramp grant for the ice skating rink. That's this year. I mean, we had the CDBG money, which is going.
CDBG, is that the community block development grant?
That's going to be over by the north part. It was like 250,000. We have a sidewalk from the state that Ross is doing. That's being run through the general fund. That's sidewalks along over by the airport, if I'm not mistaken. So when you add that up, that's the main differences. So if you take the ongoing revenue of the intergovernmental, it's going to be consistent.
So let me ask you with that, is the anticipation then not to submit for grants for next year?
No, we're submitted.
You've
So,
already submitted.
I submitted for, we've got 2 grants for the safe sidewalk. They gave us more money for 1,900.
For 2019?
Yes, and then we put in for TAP grant on sidewalk on 3,100
So-
from 48 to 6,000.
So that intergovernmental, just for the record then, it's sitting at 243, that's your projection.
yeah, so if we get the additional grants and they get approved for next year, then we'll have to.
I'm in the same boat. I can assure you I'll submit for ramp.
We don't put it in
grants
because we don't know if
and
we're going to get it or
But
not.
Yeah.
Exactly right. We don't know if we'll get it or not.
Well, it's the reason why my question's there is because if you looked at that worksheet I sent you, we were basing everything on anticipation of going to $18 million. This number at $16 million would dramatically change all of that. So we're really resting our laurels on the anticipation of picking up an extra $1 million to cover that loss.
I don't think, but but you didn't balance budget.
Yeah, so.
So we're not spending it if we haven't
Yeah, we're
got
not
it.
spending these additional funds that,
Yeah.
from the ramp grant,
That's where
things like
That's where my
that.
numbers aren't matching then. So you got to help me, just for my edification, because I need to understand it in order for me to figure it. Right now, at least as I see it, in this general category, your numbers basically tell me 17,929,000.
I'm showing 16,620,000.
So flip your next page on,
I see it on here, that's his revenue. So I need to find out what was the story with the $804,000?
We could help you out with that, because I think there's
Is it-
probably going to be something maybe from another fund, or it could be Class C. This doesn't have Class C, this doesn't have the other
Okay.
funds in it. This is only,
This is just our city's
The-
general
the general fund, yes.
Not the
Yeah.
utilities.
I bet you
general
that's.
Yeah, your data basically says it took in the road and transportation funds.
That's
I
correct.
don't know what those are.
Yes, so that money is not included in the 16. If you add that money into it, then you would be closer to 18, yes. Going downward, the fines and forfeitures, pretty consistent from last year. We're on track to where we were. Miscellaneous revenue, the big kicker there was the sale of North Parkland. We're obviously not going to be doing that again.
Anytime we get the money in, we have to, for accounting purposes, it has to go into revenue before we can expense it. So
Yeah.
that's your big differences.
And so there's a small change in the contributions and transfers. So if you go to the next page with the expenditures, you can see that last year was substantially greater than this year as well. So you see that, let's just start out with wages. That was about, you can see the impact of the wage, the STEP program. It's the $300,000 roughly. That includes, we have a 4% increase in medical benefits this year, which is actually really good. If you move down to operations, very, very small.
Can I mention something on operations?
Yep.
When we went into this budget, we told the department directors, try to keep your operational funds as close to last year as you could. You know, if you have some decreases in your budget from last year, or you want to shift the line items, shift them where you need to. You know, if this line item number 1, you lost or you gained $20,000, instead of me taking the $20,000, can you shift it in line item 3 or 4 for training needs or to bump other things up? And that's basically what we did. So we try to keep our operations flat, really in preparation for other capital needs and to cover the cost of the employees and there's the STEP system.
As you see, you see a pretty large decrease in capital. Last year, if you take that $19 million and the money that we got in from revenue, you can see that we're taking $1.2 million out of our fund balance to fund some of that capital. And what that capital is right there is you're going to have the CDBG that we spoke about earlier. You have the fire truck. You have these major capital purchases. So it's not like little things here and there. It's major projects. Transfer to information technology, that's just the IT fund. Transfers to capital projects, again, that's going to be the America First money we took in, we sent out.
So if you
also
add that
have
America First money to
and
that
then-
185, the 940, that's basically,
And then we took some over for the basement and things like that, yeah. Liability insurance went up a little bit, and then debt services has gone away. So, and Bob, to kind of reiterate why I didn't put the Class C and the transportation fund in this, is because I feel it's misleading, because you can only use those funds on those projects. So I like to keep them separated.
Yeah, the reason why I asked that, man, is because your data gave it as a combined. When we got the reports, we went through the reports, it specifically indicated that it was, it looked like both of them were in there, and that's okay.
And we technically wrap them up together on a financial statement at the end of the year. So that's thus,
Yeah, that
but
explains.
for this purpose.
Yeah, that explains.
everybody okay with the comparisons? Expenditures versus revenue, 18 and 19. Okay? Okay, we felt like as a group, these were our top 6 needs for the city.
So this is coming from these guys too?
All of us.
So- Okay.
Yep. Employees, number 1. I may have been the driver on this one. As the
Yeah, 'cause
top
I-
6.
I was okay with your first 2.
I was looking at some of these and I'm going, you guys all okay with this over there?
Yeah, so I may have said, here's my top 6 needs, how do
I
we
don't
meet
care
it?
about North Park, but
So I'm like, there's no fire truck or police cars in there or any more radios or anything.
I don't care about.
I'm just kidding. Keep going.
Okay, so we all agree, employees were number 1. North Park, my job's on the line for North Park. I have got to get North Park done. I'm gonna be asking Carl for a dog catcher job in December if I don't have North Park
We could
done.
use another code enforcement officer.
No, he's got one.
Oh,
We could really
thanks.
use 2.
Thanks, JP.
And if they come with fire experience, you might fit right in.
Ouch. Okay, North Park 2, water meters. We're gonna discuss water meters in a bit. Street lights, ice skating rink. I got a feeling I'm pretty much hosed on the ice skating rink. As a low priority, I got a feeling the community already wants it. The information's already been out there. And I've been threatened by my life by another city council member that says, don't even touch the ice skating
Well,
rink.
so let's talk about it just for a
Oh,
second,
okay.
okay?
Go ahead.
I think it's a good conversation. $500,000.
Is it farther in here?
Yeah, we're gonna get right to that.
Okay,
Yep.
okay, keep going.
We're gonna break them down individually.
Okay.
Okay, okay. Ice skating rink, library, and we're gonna have a discussion on municipal park real quick.
Yeah, keep going. You got still 40 pages.
Okay. So, in detail, number one, employees. Employees was part of our workforce development. As stated in the strategic plan, we have successfully completed step 1 of this plan. Step 2 is very obtainable, and step 3 we fell a little bit short of, just with the demand of the budget. You've heard from all the directors on their employees, their staff. We feel like we've done a really good job with number 1. We're going to get to this later, but I have a strong caution on sustainability for number 1 that we're going to have to address. So, if we go in detail, here we go. By taking care of the employees, it has been a tremendous positive impact of employee retention, positive workforce, better productivity, and we are actually taking employees from other cities for the first time. We are not the training ground, and we have stopped the bleeding. I do have sustainability concerns that we do have to address. Okay? North Park. As stated in the strategic plan, we believe we'll accomplish line item 1. This was to complete phase 1 and phase 2. So here's kind of a snapshot. Travis, kick in anytime you want.
Let me just stop you right off the get-go. We don't even view them as phase 1 and phase 2 anymore. We're building a park right now. You know, and I mean, at the end of the day, it has to be done by the end of the year, and we're building a park. Ross and I went on a drive of it today. We're running irrigation currently in what would be known as the old phase 2. We're building a park. We have a landscape guy there. We're not going to turn him away and say, well, we got to finish phase 1. So I don't even necessarily want you guys to view them in terms of phase 1, phase 2 at this particular time. We're going to finish a park this year.
The only comment I would have, Travis, is maybe a comment you made, which has got my attention. Sod versus seeding, and the availability and use of those properties.
There are certain locations in the park, let's call them going to be high traffic areas, the areas by the playground, the areas by the Bowery, the areas by the Misting Splash Pad area. We're going to have to sod. It will never, the biggest enemy of turf is compaction. It is the biggest enemy of turf there is. And in those particular areas, we're going to have to put down sod. But the bulk of the park, 90% of it's going to be hydrous seed and slit seed. It's a combination of both that they've found very effective, where they'll spray it on top, and they'll also come with drills and drill the seed into the turf as well.
Have we looked at any AstroTurf at all?
Yes.
You know, it's a great idea.
In one area.
Good. It was Ross's idea. I'll give him all the credit. He says he doesn't care about North Park, but he must like me because he helps me with it all the time. But there is an area that in between the misting system and the playground that we are going to turf that area.
That's good.
What about, because it was approached to me, we just open and just talk
Yeah,
whatever going on.
yeah.
I was approached by wondering about that area next to the America First parking lot where they're practicing now, about astroturfing that whole thing and possibly looking at America First to maybe like be a sponsor.
I've
Call it a little bit of
I've had
America First Park, something,
I brought that up with
to
him
be
about
able
getting
to-
some private sponsors and, maybe Cap Automotive Field or something.
And I'm 100% okay with that.
Miller Field
Yeah.
or American First Field or,
Ross and I are going to go see Parsons and a couple of big hitters in this area to see what the level of interest from those guys are to be able to sponsor some stuff. Currently, we do not have in our budget anywhere in shape or form to AstroTurf that area.
But I mean,
But we have tweaked design because of public demand and other things in that area to make it greater green space.
You're looking at multi-million fee for AstroTurf.
I know.
That's a big nugget.
And I understand that, but it's like.
And I will say this.
Look, in the long run, your water,
You know what, you would be surprised how much water you have to put down on AstroTurf fields. AstroTurf fields now have sand and pellets in them, and everybody that ask your son at Woods Cross High, they're watering that AstroTurf field. I'm not gonna pretend to tell you as much as grass, but they water it
Just the pellets
significantly.
from coming, getting in.
I'm not anti the idea, I'm really not.
I was thinking it was gonna save water, but if we're watering it the same,
But-
then I
but-
think
but in-
it's the only
But in
damages
full disclosure, I think
that wear
an
and
idea
tear.
like that should be a selling point to try to get a corporate sponsorship. To be able to put your name on there, America First, you know, whatever field we want it to be, whether it be soccer, lacrosse, football practice field. But within our budget constraints, it's not.
Okay, where are we talking about the little part we're gonna do?
So Joe was talking about, he says, hey, we can't possibly seed every aspect of that park because, one, you can't get on it, you can't use it, and if we saw it or seed in between the splash pad or around the splash pad or the playground, it's gonna be muddy, it's never gonna grow. So we had to look at, okay, can we sod certain areas and then can we seed certain areas? We would like to sod around the splash pad for instant grass so they can use it. And then around kind of the pavilion area and around the playground where people are gonna be renting the pavilion, using the splash pad in the playground. We would sod in that area. And then Travis has a seed idea that they'll do it twice. They'll do it like a plug 4 inches in and then do an overlaying of seed to where it'll grow thicker, quicker.
And in high traffic areas of high event areas, we're gonna have a combination of sod and AstroTurf.
Okay,
Because from the playground to the splash pad, kids go back and forth, sand, or not sand, chips, it just never grows. So that's where AstroTurf makes the best sense.
I
Like
agree.
some of
Little or
these,
no upkeep to just a small area.
some of these fields that we're looking at, seeding, can we get sponsors to put in
I can
sod?
try. In all honesty, like I told you the other day, I think it's worth conversations. I think identifying some big hitters in the area, whether it be Parsons or some of these places, I think it's worth a conversation. You know, because if not, I told my recreation department, I don't anticipate us playing football there until the earliest would be 2019.
But are you gonna fence off the areas that you're seeding?
Yep. I mean,
You almost have
So there's
to.
gonna be a big chunk of the park that's fenced off.
yeah, I mean, no doubt about it.
That's what I'm saying, if we
No
can
doubt
get
about
some
it.
sponsors to throw in money to sod it.
I think, like I say, I think it's 100% worth the conversation to have with each and every one of them. I don't know what our policies are as far as sponsorship goes. Maybe we don't have any, and you guys'
Boy, you see
direction
in other
is get us
cities.
money and we'll put a name on anything. I mean, and I'm okay if that's what we're doing. But I can definitely look into, you know, Larry Miller Group and Staker Parsons and some of these areas. Ross, I know, had a conversation with Staker Parsons, and they already talked about they would love to be involved in the ice skating rink. You know, I think these are worthy conversations to have with people. And I can assure you, we will.
Public-private partnership?
Sure.
What's the difference in the time frame between seeding and sodding? Usability.
You know,
Year?
the truth is, there's 1,000,005 factors. Sod is, you're pretty instantaneous lawn. You know, your turnaround is
30 days.
probably 30 days before you can get on
So
it.
seeding is a year.
Seeding, you know, conservative was, and I agree with Councilman Saxon, it can be longer. I don't think it will be up there. That's not bad soil up there. Down at Emma Russell, I tell you that soil is more alkaline and clayey. It's going to take longer there than it's going to take at North Park. I couldn't even venture the cost difference, though. I mean, you're going to pay a massive amount of more money to sod an entire
30
park.
versus 100,000.
I'll bet it's bigger than that.
Is it?
I'll bet you.
I mean,
I'll bet
the-
you go from about 250 to 30.
The fear that I'm gonna come up with is we're gonna tell the community, yeah, the park's done. But 90% of it you can't use because it's in seed.
Well, and in past experience, if we can leave some of these big ticket items for them available, splash pad, misting area, playground,
Because the football's not until the
pavilion.
fall, kind of, right? So if we can get that going April and get that going for a while, do you think they can maybe play a little bit on it in the fall?
We've done.
I don't want them to. I mean, I don't want people, in all honesty, will we take fences down at that point? Probably. But are we going to do our best to discourage individuals this fall from getting on that? Yes. I mean, unless you guys tell me differently, yes, because I think the best long-term chance for that park's success is to establish that grass without people
I think
playing
people
on
will
it.
be happy
Uh,
with the
and
splash
here's-
pad, the playground, the
We've done it
Bowery.
twice. We've seeded 2 parks, Roy West and Emma Russell. And yes, it took the year to grow them, and yes, people were very kind enough to stay off and do the best. They did, so.
Well, and the one
We've
thing
done-
that's
we've
in
done
our
it
favor on North Park is you do have now the east side
Yep.
that we gained.
And
So you've got
there's,
the whole
and-
area
and-
right there.
people aren't used to that area as a park. You know, I mean, in all honesty, we've
Yeah.
been able to, it's not like we're taking 2 football fields while we let this grass grow away from the community.
Great.
You know, they haven't had, they're gonna get them, and they're excited to see them, but we're not taking that away from them at this point in time. The community, like Dave said, historically has been good. Emma Russell, West Park, of realizing, hey, let's try to stay off this and get a good root system and grow this thing. I'm not hugely concerned by it.
And we've got enough for our rec programs right now, even
Yeah,
without.
we're making it work. It's more challenging this year. I mean,
Okay.
because we're gonna be spread out and doing some things differently, but we've known that all along, and my staff's done a great job of planning and organizing that we're gonna be able to run all of our programs and events. We didn't turn anyone away. Everyone still who signed up is gonna play baseball, softball, t-ball, coach pitch, you know, Roy City is, always has.
I got a question, just a point for us to make. I mean, it's kind of, I'm not gonna call it a pet peeve for me, but we need to honor the man more that the park was named after, okay? It's a generation thing, I get it. We all call it North Park, but it was named George Wallen North Park many years ago.
So call it George Wallen.
Just call it George Wallen Park, because everybody knows Emma Russell Park because that wasn't established that way.
His wife is very sensitive to that too. I talk to her
And I
every,
mean, if we keep calling it North Park, it's gonna stay that way, and it'll be a generation thing, but.
And that's a good
Right.
point.
To honor the man, let's call it George Wallen Park, as it should be.
That's
As it should be.
And my number one helper right now in this process is Jory Wallen, which is George's grandson, to be honest with you. He was a Wasatch Civil. He helps me with this stuff immensely. And, you know, I've indicated to him through this group letting me know this, that we're going to have a grand opening. I think as a group, we need to talk about when we want to do that. You know, do we want to wait for the whole park to be done? Do we want to wait till we get monuments, misting system, Bowery's in, and then do it? Or, you know,
What do you want to do? But I think Dave's point's well taken. His comment would be is as soon as we do the dedication, we start talking that talk. It really may rest on you. When do you want to put it in? But maybe that's an action item for Jason and you and Travis to think, because waiting until next year may be too long.
I agree. I
she's
agree
not
with
getting
you.
any younger, I'm telling you.
I do not want to wait till next year. And the reason I've almost had the notion and idea of tying it into Roy Days, I guess I just threw that out there. I would love to tie it into that stretch, personally.
That's what I was thinking.
We'll have the Bowery done, the splash pad done, the
We-
sod down.
We've talked with Jory about his grandmother being potentially Grand Marshal. You know, we have a tie-in that we're, military strong is kind of our theme right now. The playground itself is very military-based. I think if we could work some sort of hand-in-hand with Roy Days with some grand opening, you know, ceremonies at George Wallen Park, I think it would be, it's very logical.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay, everybody's got a paper, a George Wallen North Park paper in front of them.
That's one more question about that.
George Wallen Park.
Yeah, George Wallen Park.
GWP, I'm calling it GWP, first one to say it.
We talked about this, and I think, did we decide to shift the pickleball courts from there to Emerustle?
Yeah, well, I don't want to steal his thunder, yes. Right now,
It's not his thunder, it's Dave and I's thunder.
well, whose ever thunder it is. I should have done more of these, I'll give you some to share. This is the current idea that we're strongly looking to execute. I got another one, who wants to look at it? Let me keep it, I'm keeping it.
Okay.
It's all right, I'll let you look at it right after. There's a few changes to it. One of the things, you know, it's important for this park for us to understand, we're trying to do it as fiscally conservative as possible, but still building it as nice a park as possible. We have had to take some things out, in full disclosure. You know, I mean, we don't have enough funding to do everything that we would like to do in a lot of buildings, the pickleball courts. We're going to refurbish the current baseball t-ball fields there. We've met with some companies that have made us feel very comfortable in their ability to make that look nice and good. That's going to save us a couple $100,000. It also creates 2 additional green space areas that are very important for us to try to have in our community that is growing leaps and bounds in programs like lacrosse and soccer. As we've talked with the community in the office, they've requested us to try to create some green space areas for them to have practices, and that's what we've tried to do there. Lastly, we're playing around with the notion and idea. Well, let me start all over. What we propose, what we'd like to do, I don't know if you want me to talk about this or you
Is
want to
this
talk
the
about it. Yes.
Yeah. I'll start it,
Okay.
and then you help me finish it.
Okay.
So if you look at the top section is what we currently have money for. So if you look at the total to complete required items, $1.522 million. Okay, we have that in the budget, and then the budget remaining is 211. We have that 211. That's part of the money from America First sale and the money that we've already allocated to this park. So everything in that top square is going to be done for the $1.5 million. We still have $211,000 in the existing budget to work with. Okay, so now budget remaining for the other options in the bottom square, you'll see the south parking lot, and then you'll see concrete curb and gutter, asphalt parking lot, 18-inch diameter storm drain, all the way down, and the site work total, if you look to the right, is $146,000. Then if you go to the next one, the east walkways, that's $25,000. If you go to the recreational fields, that's $220,000. If you look at the park amenities, pickleball courts, as JP already stole the thunder, that's going to be gone. And the structures. So in priority, this is what we would like.
It's going to be gone, but you're going to try to allocate it to Emerustle.
Oh, we are. It's going to Emerustle, and there's going to be 2 courts that go in there. Okay, so Travis, help me with this. If we look at the south parking lot.
Let me just kind of
Okay,
go for a minute.
go for it.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, no, I don't mind.
I think it's important that as you look at this, we've started crunching our own priorities. And one of and my number one priority there would be the recreation fields.
And why is that a number 1 priority?
It's number 1 priority because that's where we do programming. We run events there. We run t-ball and baseball and coach pitch and machine pitch, and it's what we do there.
In a park.
Exactly.
Our parks are-
And you gotta have the time to do it.
Well, we got to have the facilities,
We gotta
you know,
have the
frankly
park
speaking.
available.
It was part of the reason, because I hated giving up pickleball there, but it was part of the reason of us saying it's important for us to take care of ourselves right now. We have to be able to have locations to run our program.
And it's a revenue generating thing.
Exactly. I mean, we bring in money in all these things. So that's my number 1 priority. Now, there's a couple things there that I'm gonna sound like my boss, we'll get back to. Sorry, that's my problem, I make myself laugh more than I make anyone else.
Yeah, no one else joined in.
No, I that was a great joke.
I caught it.
We're gonna get back to the state.
I caught it, but no one laughed.
Thank you. My number 2 priority at that point in time would be storage building and restrooms south of the parking lot. So if you're looking at this map right here, that would be this structure right where my finger is. I think it's important we have 2 restrooms up in this area, and I think it's important we get a restroom storage area down here where my finger is. That would be one of my second priority. My third priority would be that south parking lot. You know, that would be my priority. Now, there is also something we're currently playing with ramp grants, with a couple of things that we're real excited if we can pull it off. And that is to light up a football field, multi-use football, soccer, lacrosse field.
Friday Night Lights.
Well, there's where you go after a sponsor.
There it is, and we think it is a tremendous opportunity for revenue. There is not a lit field in this area. Ogden City has added kind of some ones up in their place, but other than that, there's not a lit field in this area. It was important for us from a programming perspective. Tackle football is hurting. And I mean, in full disclosure, concussions and things like that, numbers in tackle football are declining. But I'll tell you what's replaced it. Flag football.
Yeah, that's what my son's doing, he loves it.
Exactly, and our numbers have, this is our 3rd year doing it, they tripled from year 1 to year 2. And we're expecting an increase like that as we move forward.
It was a great program last summer. I mean, I didn't know how it was gonna go. I kinda had reservations about it. He loved it, we loved it as parents. I mean, if you've ever had a massive concussion like I did in my car wreck, that's when I pulled my son out of tackle football and said, I will not put a kid through a concussion like that.
And right, wrong, or indifferent, that's kind of the trend it's heading in. Go
So
ahead.
here's the question I ask is tell me how the lights fit in that discussion.
It fit in the discussion of,
Flag football, because I'm not saying that lights are not important, but if we pulse that neighborhood to see if in fact how
No.
they're going to
That's what I was
accommodate.
just saying, that's-
Nope.
that's what that-
absolutely not. And we're not necessarily, we're bringing this up right now. But I have not, and I agree with you. I think if you were to light this field right here, you better have a conversation with the people along here. You know, I mean.
Same thing with the other field. You better have-
Exactly. You know, it's just pick and choose which side of the neighborhood you want to talk to. I think these people are nicer, so I'm going to choose this one.
Yeah.
I agree with
I'm
you.
gonna throw this out here. That's my experience, that's the number 1 bitchy neighborhood in the city.
I don't disagree with you.
On the west side.
If it's a destination park, we're trying to build destination facilities.
Security.
Yeah.
Jason, I want you to say what you just said again.
If we're building a destination park, we want destination facilities in that park.
In all honesty, with new lighting systems, with LED lighting and things like that, the impact upon surrounding area is significantly less than it is even at West Park. I mean,
You can reduce light emissions with the new types of lights.
Exactly. And Dave, you have halogen lights and you're getting killed. I don't dispute that. But
I don't care. I know where I was.
But here's the nice thing, if you look at to scale this field, okay, there's a church.
Well, and I think the stuff to the north being a business and a school and a library, probably don't have a problem that way. It's the people on the south end and on that east end. that's gonna-
No, and I don't disagree with you, and I think if we're able to secure some funding with ramp and things like that, step 2 needs to be simply to go to the neighborhood and say, this is where we're going.
Let's bring us back to this money, okay? We're 400,000 short. What, Travis has his priorities, what is going to be done with the 200? And the extra 200 we're moving down to Emma Russell. Where's that coming from?
I will say, okay, I'll answer this. There's going to be, we're able to cut down quite a bit of cost of the recreation ball fields. We're able to, with the remodeling of them now, cut that cost down to about $130,000.
Ball fields are
So
done.
instead of 220, it's going to be 130.
Yes, sir.
So that
Including the
leaves you
lighting.
81,000
No, that does not include the lighting.
But that's included in there.
81,000 left, what do you?
$81,000 left. What I would propose at that point in time is I would take the $81,000 and add $40,000 of park impact fee to, park development money to.
Which we have.
You do, in that 220, you have 90,000 in lighting on there.
No, and that's what I'm saying, don't look at the 220 anymore, it's 130 now. But
Okay.
that wouldn't include that part of that
Not
money.
putting lighting in.
Okay, you take the $80,000 left and give it $40,000 more, that pays for our restroom down on the south end. The $40,000 would come from park development money.
Yes, the south end parking lot done or not yet?
Not yet, haven't got there yet.
So we got a toilet but nowhere to park except on the dirt. Just throwing that out.
You're 100%
You got,
right.
hey, Trav, tell Dave that's still part of our conversation that's coming right now.
We'll get there.
Let's get there.
Then I
For the
propose
rest of the story.
we take monies from RDA through loans and different programs
I actually brought that up the other night.
to build that parking lot.
And the reason?
The reason I think is I just think it would help complete the park. I think it would make for a nicer
We
look.
got RDA money there
I understand.
for that area.
It's a funding source, it's basically a funding.
That's what you gotta do is, what is economic do we get out of it? Well, if we can put programs together, we can use that park for programs, it's generating money.
I thought that had to be designated, though.
There's already, you've got RDA money in that area,
There's already in that money.
already in that area.
Yeah, because that's pulling in money.
Oh, okay.
So theoretically, it's supposed to
I
be
think
used there
that- I
first.
think that- let's talk about RDA at some point. I think you have it in this conversation. I'm not saying it's not a bad idea, but what I'm seeing, at least in terms of discussion of RDA, is that I think there's a strategy coming to the council that's going to change the framework of how RDA money should be spent and utilized, that will start us getting back into building the economical base within the city and capitalizing RDA funds. And to make that work, those RDA funds become really sacred if our intent then is to generate sales tax revenue to pay for everything we're playing with. Because at this point, all we're doing is just saying is relying on what we're getting on sales tax, which we haven't got those numbers, but recognizing the
tax is in
sales
there.
tax dollar process,
Yeah.
dollars that are taxes collected at the city, half of that comes in the city. The other half is sent to the state and is distributed based on population. And then they're talking about taking 1.8% of that and paying for basically housing for the homeless. And so we're going to take a nip in that. Not sure what that impact's going to be. But I will tell you, I counted 15 to 18 storefronts in Roy City right now that are empty. There is no sales tax coming out of those facilities. So all we're getting at best is a property tax. And I know Brian, and surely I am, and I suspect others are saying is, we're bringing business, and that was my comment earlier. We're trying to drive businesses into Roy to help build the sales tax so we get more of a punch out of that. But the conversation that's going to come to the table here, probably with, if not today, it'll definitely be a couple of weeks, is going to be is, can we capitalize RDA funding to fundamentally restart the economical development operation in the city? And here's a good reason. I'm down there yesterday talking to this theater builder, and he's talking about some things that we do. And we're having a good conversation. And the first thing we talked about, and the first thing to come out of that conversation would be is that he's thinking about building that theater in Clinton. Clinton. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, wait a minute.
We're here.
Okay, we brought him to the table, we've gone down to him, and the opening comment, he says, I'm going to build it in Davis County, and not Roy. And we're trying to figure out exactly why. And it's frustrating for us to basically says, here's a guy we've been soliciting. In fact, to be very honest with you, we brought him to northern Utah on the purpose to bring him to Roy to put a place, and now his first conversation out of his mouth says, I want to put it in Clinton. And so we're saying is, well, here's a better option. And so we're going to throw him 3 properties in the area that's going to be closed, just to say, hey, we think we can offer you a better option. But they had a better option to bring a first-run theater, 10-screen operation, okay, rests solely on what we can do with RDA funds. Cut and dry, that's bottom line, because there's no other funding, no other avenue.
Well, we can't compete tax base wise.
Well, and see, we have to find another option. And we're saying is, can we partnership? We got to get real creative of how we do that. But here's the key. We got to generate revenue and start getting the revenue back into the city to be able to do that. And to do that, RDA funding is the only source that we have as an organization to make that happen. And I'll tell you, nobody's working harder than Brian right now. He's called Home Depot. He's called restaurants. He went after Sizzler. He basically is calling it, and they're all basically saying, well, based on the economy, it's a little unstable right now, they're not making many investments. And we got good land to do it. And I'm not the only one saying that, but I'll tell you who's getting all of this. Salt Lake County and Utah County, they can't get enough space available for them. They're building like wild cakes down there, and we're basically sitting back to wonder what's happening. And then when they do come, they said to come into Davis County, or how about this one?
They get a little
For
short.
3 years, Hobby Lobby has been soliciting Riverdale to get Hobby Lobby on Riverdale. 3 years they've been trying to get in there. Well, gee, come to Roy. We got a good spot. They didn't even talk to us. The best we're doing right now, to be very blunt with you, is we're doing great on car washes.
Chinese
We're not doing
building.
much else.
Well, I mean, good point on economic development. We got about $2 million there, and if it's only the 120, Travis says, to complete the park, still a great investment, still a good thing, and still have enough money to do what we need there.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say, once we get the information from Rand Sam, as far as what we
Right.
can do with the RDA money, and get that pinned down, then, yeah, I think we need to look at, okay, Travis, you need to pin us down.
Okay.
This is what I need.
That's more than
To be able to do RDA, because I mean,
We have to
Yes.
complete this part.
yes, I mean, yeah, I would like to bring in the
Yep.
movie theater, and yes, that would be great, and I can see Bob's point that that's gonna increase
I
our
mean,
sales
number
tax.
2 on the priority list.
It's huge.
But North Park, we started and we have a commitment there, and
Yep.
that commitment needs to be done.
And not only does that commitment need to be
Sorry.
done, it's gonna help everybody out that's sitting in
Throw
this
something at
room.
me,
It's gonna take
throw
practice.
something at me.
It's gonna help everyone out. What we're looking for is $200,000 probably from RDA to finish this park. It'll completely finish it. He has $190,000
So close.
in a rec grant funds that Travis has. That, Joe Paul, is going to put pickleball courts at Emma Russell. So we just need to complete this. This is a council decision.
Yeah.
We're coming to you with this is the number 2 priority. JP?
So, have we already budgeted the money for the rink?
Yes. Yes.
Would it be better to cascade the rink a year to finish North Park? Or do we run the risk of losing our ramp grant?
No, we're okay in the ramp grant.
Well,
I mean, I
here's
hate
what
to
I'd
throw
say.
that wrench to you, but
No,
what's more
and I'm
important
gonna throw it
than
back
this?
in you guys and say, that's your guys' decision, not mine. But I would say
I was told
this.
that's the next conversation coming
It
up,
is.
so I'm not saying anything about that.
But I would say this, from here on out, ramp grants, Ross and I got a ramp grant for the trailhead. From here on out, they have to be spent in that year. We're done with being able to stretch them out. Ice rink is still grandfathered in, and I'll double check, but I think it's still got a 5-year window, okay?
That's what I was wondering.
But now they're within the same year that they're granted.
Yes,
Is
from
that
here
what
on
you're-
out, from
Okay.
this
You gotta
point
use them the year
forward,
that they
I
we
didn't-
have
I
to be
didn't know
very,
that.
very intelligent in the ramp grants we put in
Because
for,
then you gotta
to
make sure
make
that you
sure
can
we can
complete
get
it.
them completed in that year.
That's interesting.
It was food for thought. I didn't mean to throw. a
No,
wrench at you, but
and, you know,
what's-
if we want to segue right now to the ice rink, we can segue now to the ice rink.
Any questions on George
But I
Wall?
still don't know if we're done with George Wall.
Okay, then let's stick on
Just
GWP.
with the funding part, Travis needs $200,000 to complete the south parking lot, the restroom, and the ball fields, minus the lights. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so he needs $200,000 to complete that. He
And that's
does have
what's there.
park and ramp money that we can use that to fund Emma Russell's 2 pickleball courts,
Let me correct him, that would come out of park development money.
park development.
we do have, we can add 2 pickleball
I guess
courts.
kind of to Joe's thing about other money, instead of Ember Russell getting those pickleball courts now, you use that money to finish North Park and wait on the pickleball.
That's what I'm thinking. Let's prioritize different projects. You know, skating rink, Emma Russell pickleball courts. What's more important? I'd rather put all of our money and effort into finishing George Wallen Park.
I think we kind of saw that. If we got that, we use instead of the pickleball courts, we wait on those at Emma Russell and put that 140, finish off North Park and we're done.
That's a good argument.
What do you think,
Yeah.
Travis?
I mean, we can go another
Let me
year
double check
without,
the math, but
Okay.
yeah, I got no problem.
we can go another year without pickleball courts at Emma Russell.
Right, I think we're.
If we
I'll
can
double
finish
check
George
the math, but
Wallen.
I'm totally, I agree with Jason. I mean, I have to
They're not using
get,
RDA.
North Park's number 2.
the importance
We
of
gotta
finishing
finish
North Park is not lost on me.
George Wallen.
George Wallen.
George
Sorry, I
Wallen.
won't make the mistake again.
I
George
can
Wallen
say
Park
it's a generation
again.
thing, it's gonna take a generation, but we need to start the cycle.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I know getting a tournament would be beneficial and generating some revenue. And I know those pickleball courts are busy, but I walk 2 to 3 miles every day there, and there's always a court open. So having 2 more courts there would help us with a tournament. And I agree, in a year from now, let's make sure we do it. Don't forget about it. But I think if we can shift away from that and put the money to finishing North Park.
Okay.
Okay,
Sign,
just-
sealed, and delivered.
Almost there, not quite. but-
Just so I'm on board, we need the restroom and the storage facility and the parking lot on the south end of the football field. We're doing the ball fields, and you have 190 in your parks fund, right?
Yep.
So 190, so what do we need left? Because you already got 211, you're gonna add 190.
No,
That's-
211, let's go from
You got
211. subtract the cost of
217.
160,
You gotta subtract.
Okay.
160, right?
130.
Okay, here's what you'd be. It'd be at 130 minus the 211, which would take us to about 81.
Okay,
Okay, to put in the storage building restrooms on the south end, you're at 116.
okay.
So you need probably $40,000 to finish that,
Okay,
which
so
I'm
we're
already
40
currently
shy.
taking out of park development.
Okay,
So now park development's gonna be
140.
lowered to about 150.
okay,
You're there?
Okay?
Okay.
150, $146,000 parking lot.
done.
Okay, yeah, we're there.
There's the funding.
Cha-ching.
We
Okay?
good?
And no RDA money
Nope, no
you're-
RDA.
used, and we
And
just
North
have
Park-
The
that.
only,
complete.
the only thing I would potentially need RDA money
$5
for
every time you say
North
North Park.
Park, yeah.
George Wallen
at
Park.
George
I'm
Wallen
saying,
Park.
right now.
Get the
We
jar
need
right.
the jar.
Like the swear jar.
Get the rubber band.
The swear jar.
This is one you'll have to think about. I think it would be a great opportunity for us, but I also know you don't always get what you want. The only other potential I would need is a possibility if we were to do lights. I would probably need an additional $80,000 to $100,000 to put in lights.
Or a sponsor.
Okay, that's the
So-
next-
so
that's the
the-
next-
that's a
You're
whole-
talking field lights?
There you go. That's if we were to light
I'd
up the
say
football
private
field.
sponsorship that.
It
Or a
would-
ramp grant, or a ramp grant, another ramp grant.
So, no, and I wanted you guys to be
Throw
aware of
that to
that.
the public first.
I'm sure you don't want to talk about another subject.
If the public tells you to pound sand, there's no reason to even go
Sure.
begging for money.
Okay, so minus the lights for George Wallen Park, we're solid on the funding. We
There you
don't
go.
need additional funding.
Right.
Okay, perfect. Everybody good with that?
Did we
Awesome.
use the pickleball money to do that?
Yep,
Yes.
pickleball money is gone.
Yep.
And just for the next
Somebody will probably shoot me
future,
for
future
that.
funding for that.
You gotta
Bring it
put
to
that
your budget.
in there for
Yeah.
a future, though.
Yeah, no, I
Just
have
No, we
no
need to wrap
problem.
that back in.
I have no problem bringing it to this group again a year from now. And then you guys can decide. I mean, I can put it in, you guys are the ones who's got to decide if it happens or not.
Okay.
Okay,
Water meters.
water meters, number 3 on the list.
Who needs water?
I don't want to get.
You guys need to take a break, or you good?
I'm in favor.
You good?
If they're breaking, let's just continue.
Okay, water meters. That is a huge priority. Ross can kind of jump in anytime he wants. This was a 5-year plan. $200,000 a year for 5 years was gonna cost us $1 million. Right now, we're in year 3. So what that means is we automatically have another 200,000 put in for fiscal 19's budget to go towards the water meters. We're gonna talk about our water meter utility fund a little bit later. But the reason that we need the new water meters and the reason we did this project is because right now we bill our utilities every other month. We're trying to go like every other city and be a big boy like them and bill once a month. But we can't do that because the way that we read the meters is right now currently a guy walks along the side of the houses and then the data gets put into his little wand or whatever. Okay? Well, we're changing the water meters to where we can drive by it and just all the meters will download into the software. How many meters did they read today?
He read 1,400 meters in an hour and about 15 minutes.
That's exactly where we need to go.
So you need less
That would have taken
resources.
us 3 to 5 days to read those.
So here's the trade-off then. And I think we need to understand the trade-off. You need to accelerate this development plan to get them all, what do you got, 10,000 homes?
She's 9,700.
9,700? You got 97 homes. You're obviously pretty close to maybe halfway, maybe a little over halfway to.
Not even quite halfway. I don't think.
4,600.
Oh, you're in year 3, so you're probably about halfway. At the end of this, what is the benefit to besides the benefit to the city? Because you just knocked out within minutes what took you hours to do. What is the real benefit to do this?
So here's the benefit, and then you can chime in too. The benefit is we go to monthly billing,
Which
number
is
one,
what? Okay, and the benefit of that is?
just
More
doing a monthly.
affordability for our.
Just a month,
That's what
just
it
a
comes
monthly
down.
billing
To me,
with
it's
the
easier to budget. I
newsletter.
can't stand it every other
The
month.
2-month thing kills you when you get that bill, you're like, shit.
Yeah,
Okay, because you have to kind of sell this from that premise. So you get
Right.
monthly billing, making it cost a little bit less per month, and it's a little
Right.
easier to swallow.
but second, Ross has dedicated full-time personnel from his water department
Okay.
over to this water meter installation. So it'd be nice to get that employee back to the water department, because right now.
We bring in, usually in the summer, 4 part-timers to help read meters.
Okay, so by doing this, you cut 4 full-timers out of the discussion.
Part-time.
Or part-timers, I'm sorry. So that's the benefit. You
Yeah,
cut
those are the-
labor.
those
So
are-
you
2 full
basically-
salaries, basically, Ross?
Hmm?
Like 2 full
2
salaries?
FTE equivalents.
Yes.
No,
No, it still wouldn't be.
Part-times are $10 an hour.
And we don't
And you might be dealing
It's
with
not-
one,
not a-
you know, I mean, when you do the math of 4 guys, it might be 1.
Okay.
So we would really like to get this ahead. Ross needs $300,000
More.
more, because we already have 200,000 allocated for it. So if we could find $300,000 towards the installation of these water meters, we could be done in 1 year. And there's some funding options as we go over our water utilities that we'll come across that may help us with this. Not may, it'll help us tremendously.
How many meters gets 200,000, Ross?
Depends, some of them will just take the radios, and if the radio will work on it, it's only costing us $20 per meter.
What does that mean, the radio?
There's a radio, we go in place of the register that the wand reads, we put an antenna in there
Oh.
that it picks up.
So how do you
Some of
know
our
if it?
meters are so old that they won't,
Oh, got it.
So they have to replace the whole
so
top
as soon as
of
they
it.
hook it up, they run
They
it through the
test it.
computer and
Okay.
it tells it if it's working, so.
And where do you
Okay.
propose to get the money from?
Probably, one of them is probably utility funds, the water utility fund.
So take it out of utility funds to pay for this project.
It'll help.
If we can take it out of the utility fund
Well, it's been being paid out of the utility fund now.
right now, but if
It's
it's
just
extra
liquidity there.
300,000, I don't know, we can take it out of based on our,
What's it do to utility fund if you use all 300?
Liquidity is the biggest issue.
What?
Liquidity, money.
because of the bond.
Because
Because
of
we're
the
guaranteeing
bond.
the bond, we can't drop our fund balance lower than,
Is the fund balance out of the utility fund or the general fund?
Well, you have a fund balance in the utility fund and a fund balance in the general fund, same thing. Basically, think of it like its own company.
Obviously, which was the bonding money guaranteed in, utility fund? or
Utilities,
general?
correct, yeah. utilities.
And we have to have a certain ratio now that we have a bond in that utility, I don't know if you want to explain that,
We have
Matt.
like
Yeah, you
$3.5 million in there, we can't touch it because.
Yeah, you don't want to spend all your
You can touch
money
it,
either.
but
You
if
need
don't want to,
operation money.
You don't want to because it puts the bond at risk to be called.
Yeah, I mean, we're already putting $200,000 a year right now, so you're basically asking to double or over double that.
So what's the number, what's left over if we did the whole thing?
He's saying another 300,000.
No, I mean, what's left?
Oh, in the
Yes,
fund
the fund
balance? We're doing capital projects and stuff like that too. And so that's kind of offsetting as well. They have other capital projects that if they wanted to sacrifice those, they could take
Which
it out.
capital projects are you doing or we could not do to push off if you wanted to complete this? It's a priority.
We have a water line on 4,000 that's been replaced, and a PRV pit on 4,000 goes under the railroad track. That's probably the two biggest.
Yeah, and it's not a substantial amount of money either.
So I think the question is, could we take 300,000 out of our water utility fund to fund it in this year with the already 2 that we're going to put in there? Can we do that, or are our ratios or numbers going to be off?
We're pretty close to being
Off.
yeah, right.
And we don't want to be off, because if we're off, then that bank with their bond will make us call that bond, and now we got to come up with $5 million. We don't want to do that.
What's more priority to you, Ross, those 2 projects or the water meters?
Me,
Yeah.
the water line,
The water
Seriously?
line replacement?
yes.
Okay.
For me,
Mhm.
personally, yeah, water lines.
Okay.
But just like, for instance, this year, you have the well break, and that was $140,000. He has the water lines right now. They're aging, they're constantly going and fixing them, and he's trying, yeah, and then.
We're going
Jeff's
to go over that on utility fund.
And so even when when he submitted the budget, he wanted to spend another $500,000 on another project that we just don't have the funding for.
Okay, so we do nothing because we can't find money for this, 200 grand, great. Next year, we just add another 200 grand, and the following year, so we're a couple of years out unless we find revenue,
Right.
funding for
It's loaned to me from RDA too. Right here again.
it. We took care of
I can
that.
actually pay it back.
I didn't get any.
Yeah, you didn't get any RDA.
So there,
Ross wants it.
and we'll go over that in the utility fund. So let's
What,
do.
what would the trade-off be though? I mean, what would you gain back? Like, you said 1 employee, so you gotta take that down some.
To me.
Is that right, Ross?
Yeah. So, biggest gain, it's actually you guys in the front office
Right.
get from everything. I mean, I get 1 employee that I get free up back in the water department. So they have 2 water
I guess
projects.
it comes down to 2 things, is that it was breakout. First thing, it's more convenient to the residents, so they'll find a value in doing that. And second is, it looks like he'll probably not have to have funding for 1 person, because he's doing part-time, and they're $10 an hour part-time at best. And so he'll be able to
Easier.
reduce and also redirects the people that's doing it back to his office to do the other things they already got hired to do. So really, it's just not hiring the temps during the summer months, and the benefit to the residents, because they get a monthly bill. That's the trade-off, and that's a $300,000 trade-off. Whether we fund it this year or we fund it next year totally. that's
I was
the-
just looking at the cost though. So
$300,000.
you're only gonna get 1 employee out of it. So it'd be $300,000 to do it, and you might get a $50,000 employee. So it's gonna cost you $250,000
Right.
to
Exactly.
up it.
That's what you have to look at, because it comes down to the dollars when it's all said and done. you
But we
can't-
think we have a plan established later when we hit the utility funds, which is going to.
Now, was my joke any funnier?
We're going to address it.
Later.
Keep this in mind, you guys. Right now, I don't know what everybody's water bill, single person in a home, I pay $125 every 2 months. I'm like, okay, I don't like doing that. I don't set aside for it. Like, damn, families more than me pay more than that. I know that, they use more water. Fees are going to go up from other entities, so that 125 for me is now going to be jacked up to 130, 140. That's tough for a person to come up with like that. You split that into a $65, $70 payment a month. A little more easier for people. to
Couple
swallow.
dinners.
I went to Layton City's council meeting one night, and they were having a similar conversation than this. And they had done studies and research, and it was overwhelming in their community that the residents wanted once a month billing. Some of the hidden things that were talked about in the closed door meeting prior to it, where it was easier to raise rates, that people weren't as angry as often, and if you were ever looking to bond or do anything in the future, it was easier to bond in monthly payments than it was in bi-monthly payments.
And that has
So-
to do with the liquidity, because you're getting that on a monthly basis.
They passed it that night and acted like it's a no-brainer.
It's just,
Between
can we
the
come
eyes.
up with
Might as well just hit
Sure, no, sure, it's like anything else.
You guys come up with.
So we have to find out where in the budget that can.
It's like, we wish we could do a million things, but you gotta do what you can afford.
Let's just do it right now. Let's just take care of the
Let's
water.
get there.
Yeah, let's just get there. We'll take care of the water utility fund right now. Okay, here's your water utility rates. Your base water fee, Roy, is $7.39 a month. We broke that down into a monthly. Hooper, West Point, Clinton, South Ogden, Sunset, Syracuse, Ogden are all monthly bills. You'll see our base water fee, we are less than double on average, and we're trying to do everything the same as all these other cities with the less than double in our rate.
Less than half.
Less than half. That is absolutely killing our water fund. It's killing the way we can get water meters done. And I'm just gonna say it in this meeting, we have 4-inch lines still in the city. You can't fight a fire with the 4-inch line. Ross is gonna cringe when I say it, and I'm just gonna say it. We have asbestos lines. We do. We do.
Yes, we do.
Okay, we can't do all of these things on $7 as our base rate. We just can't. So if we want to fix the 4-inch lines, if we want to fix the asbestos lines, if we want to replace the 4,000 line, the water meter line, we have to be a little bit better than the $7.39. Weber Basin Water is raising their rates in November. We can hold on, not raise it this budget session, but as Weber Basin raises their water, we may want to do a pass-through as well for us to help us with our aging infrastructure. And really our water utility fund, that's out of all the funds, we're struggling the most in that fund. And our solid waste, we do have an increase coming. We're not going to increase it for ourselves. We'll do a pass-through with waste management. But our water, sewer, utility fund is in dire needs of issues because we've got more revenue, more expenditures coming out than we have revenue coming in. We have a bond payment that we have to keep within numbers. So we might as well talk about that right now. So.
Okay, so let me ask a question then.
Mhm.
So what kind of number are you looking at?
Probably a $4 an hour raise
A month,
a month, or $4 a month,
$4 per month.
$4 a month,
So lifting that to $11.39.
right. We're
I thought it
still,
was $2 a month, and then Weber Basins is the other two.
well, Weber
So we're
Basin's
saying-
gonna be
Count what Weber
separate.
Basin. I mean, yes, it's gonna be a bill, but.
They're gonna
that's
be
nothing to do
separate
with what
from
we
us.
do.
So if we put ours to $11.39, you're still, well, besides South Ogden, you're still lower than anywhere else.
How much you charge in West Haven? We provide water to West Haven. What do we
So
sell?
we do double.
Non-resident rate.
So they're paying $14 and
Yeah.
$15 a gallon, or 15?
Plus,
Well,
A month.
plus the, over the 18,000 gallons.
Over 18.
fee, which is, there again, we're the cheapest at 82 cents.
so that
They're likely to have more of those too,
1477.
because they're bigger homes, they're.
That 1477 is just the base rate. After that, from 18, once you hit 18,000 gallons, every 1,000 gallons. So they're definitely going to be in that over 40. So for 1,000 gallons, they're paying $1.84 for 1,000 gallons.
$4 gets us what?
So $1 gets us 10,000, gets us 100,
$1 a month would give us $10,000.
$10,000.
Okay,
Yeah, just about
roughly.
10,000 connections, so.
Okay.
$4 a month, an extra 10 grand a month, 120 a year.
No,
No.
if $1 is 10,000, $4 is
I thought you said 4 grand. 4. Is it 1 or 4?
Yeah. Well, $1 would be $10,000 a month.
40.
So $40,000 a month.
40,000 months, so 400,000, 480,000.
480,000 a year.
Okay.
That we can do a lot more infrastructure. And if you remember, on our.
When we say a lot more, it
Not
can't
a
just
lot
be saying, right, it's nowhere near a lot more.
We
Right.
can actually do some though.
Right. And if you look at our strategic plan on the infrastructure, it does say in there that I referenced back, we will look at utility rates and compare ourselves with other cities. Here it is.
I don't discredit that, but I'm indicating to you, we're talking about adding $4, okay, to that bill. And I'll tell you, that will not go over very well in the public. They don't realize this comparison. We've not informed them where we sit with everybody else. And so you're asking us to raise the rates $4.
Right.
If you're asking us to raise the rate $1, if you ask $2, maybe, but that's not what you're asking. You're asking us to basically raise it $4.
Yeah, and don't do a property tax comparison on top of one of these.
So I'm not saying it's not the right thing, but we got to sell this.
Yeah,
I'm
we
trying to
still
figure
are.
out how to sell this.
So here's the information presented to you. You guys are the decision makers to make the decision. It's just my job to say, here's the numbers, here's where we're at, this is what we really need. It's your guys' job from here. I'm just supplying you guys with the information.
And if Weber Basin basically fires that at us in November, what kind of numbers are we expected to see?
Well, we already have them, don't we?
Yeah, we put those numbers in this budget. I think it was,
What? What do they want?
What do they
$1,
want?
$2?
I think it was 5%.
5%.
We're paying like $550,000 right now.
So what does that go down per resident?
Per resident, yeah, I can't calculate it off the top of my head, but we did an increase last year, and it was, everything that we've always done is just a flow-through. So last year was just 50 cents or so, if I recall off the top of my head. But we had like a $3 an hour, or $3 a month raise for North Davis Sewer consecutively for the last, like,
Right,
4 or 5 years.
because of their expenditure.
And I
Yeah,
think
so
that's
it's-
the point. The point is, when North Davis basically made a conscious decision, we're going to do a 5% increase for 5 years, it was a hit, but it wasn't a big hit. And even though they got what they wanted, which was what they needed to do,
Yeah.
that incremental increase, I think, was compatible to the people.
So that's the next thing I was going to bring up. Okay, we can either take the hit all at once, say,
Or
okay,
slowly over time,
We
yeah.
make a commitment to say, we'll do it $2, $1.50, $1.50, whatever increment we feel comfortable with, that you think the citizens would be comfortable with.
Right.
Knowing that you take a little bit of hit, you get a little punch every year, or you just take one big knockout one time.
Yeah.
And that's your choices.
And I think that's what's beneficial on the monthly billing, because $4 a month is now $8 a bill.
Right.
If you do that, and so that's another benefit on
But he
monthly.
won't realize all of that, and we can't get to a monthly billing until
For another-
we come up with the 300,000.
And if we raise that, our utility rates on our water bill, it'll actually, if we did it 2% or the $2, that would fund pretty
That's
much
the question, Ken. You think you could swallow $2 a year for the
the
next
rest
3
of the
years?
money.
$2 a month?
I mean,
That's an
Yeah,
easier sell.
I like
You like that?
$2,
That's fine.
not like $4.
Yeah,
okay,
that's,
$2 is a good sell.
I mean, it's better than what we have now
Right.
with Ross. For the last 3 years, he turns in a capital budget of in excess of $500,000. And every year, we have to kind of tame that down. Last year was over $1 million. There's endless supplies of projects that he has, but we're always just taming them back. And what I feel like we're doing is we're just prolonging it. And we
But I
can
mean, that's
keep on
what-
prolonging it.
Dave made a profound statement in a council meeting one time, and this is what he told us, but me specifically. He says, quote, "There's an $80 million infrastructure bill that Roy City is facing. And primarily, I suspect, not so much to the west as much it is to the east, because we've got those less than adequate lines that have got to be dug up, have got to be replaced, and more importantly, we've got to put roads back on top of
Right.
them. $80 million, if we did nothing else with our budget, that's 4 years of spending nothing but infrastructure and no support for people.
Yeah, or, yeah.
And that's a massive
It
effort,
is
and it's a
massive.
reality we face.
And the reality is we haven't touched it.
Right.
So at some point
Yeah,
in
that
time, there
balanced
has to
budget
be
did
a
nothing for
discussion that simply says, how is that and how are we going to eat that elephant? And how are we going to make sure that when we're there? I don't know that answer, and I still don't have to talk to the public about that, but it's a reality that we face.
Well, I think this is the very best way to talk to the public. If you raise it $2 and we're still the lowest water base in 7 cities, that's a huge sell.
That's a good
And
sell.
we can get the 4-inch lines done, the asbestos lines, that's big.
Not 1 year.
Huh?
Not 1 year, but.
No.
No.
But at least you get a start
It's the
on
gift that
it.
keeps on giving.
Right.
And it's going to happen every year, you just got the
It's
bills
just-
So,
on it.
$250,000
you know, I went
a
to
year.
Weber Basin shareholders meeting 2 weeks ago. They're planning on raising our rates for the next 10 years, 5%.
5% next
For
year.
capital projects.
But I think that's a good start, if you guys are good with that, to say with $2 a year
I like
for the
the
next 3
$2.
years.
Okay.
Okay? And just-
Yeah?
Really, you have to just come with one resolution to that, say that, so you don't have to address it every year, just say we did that in 2019.
But I'd rather not do it until Weber Basin raises their rates. You okay with that?
Yes.
Because then,
I say we just do it at budget, because that's 6 more months of money that you have to start with instead of it backing up on the end.
Yeah, but, I,
You're gonna raise it too, and then what's the pass-through for
yeah,
Weaver Basin gonna be?
Guess what? You're gonna get blamed for Weaver Basin, because it's our bill. I know it's not our bill, but we're getting blamed.
so do we
for it.
just do it at the same time as Weber Basin, so it looks a
Either
little
way,
bit
what you guys-
softer?
Whatever you feel is better, but it's all coming on us, because that's.
But it's in already this year's budget, well,
The
the July
2.
1st budget though, right?
Yeah, we just pay it out in January.
That's you guys'
Do
call.
we have a, what is that asbestos pipe called?
Concrete asbestos.
Do we have a lot of that in our city?
We got rid of a lot of it last year. And what we've been
I know when I
doing-
worked for the water department in Bountiful, we had some subdivisions that had that, and we had to go through and rip all that out.
Let's discuss this, because I think it's worth a
Okay.
conversation. I think Dave's point was, he says, if we just go into the budget and we take ownership for a $2 raise on that right up front, they're going to know it's us.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
It's
they're
ours.
going to know in November.
Now, if Weber comes in, which they're going to have to add to that, they're going to, that's theirs. All we can say is not us.
To Weber
We
Basin.
point to Weber Basin, it's going to probably get to $5 anyway. I don't know if they're coming in.
Yeah.
It could get to $5 net increase.
You know how much it was, the increase.
It was, yeah, not off the top of my head.
But the point is that this is a Roy City decision.
So we own this one.
Mhm.
Because we own this one. And we're doing it in large
Let's own it,
part.
let's try not to hide it.
Yeah.
It is ours. It's what
Yeah,
we
we
decide.
got the data, so.
I think we keep it transparent.
I-
Yeah.
Comments?
I agree with that. Do the 2 now, it's us, and then when Weaver Basin comes, it's a pass-through.
That's Weaver Basin's,
Brian, you got something?
there's no pass-through.
yeah, a little, maybe just a few thoughts. $2 increase is going to be portrayed as a 30% hike roughly.
Yep.
If what is important to the city is to get these lines fixed, then it's better we start now. But in turn, man, I hate to see the city bump the residents, and then comes a second bump from Weaver Basin. I think that might annoy
It is.
a lot of our residents, because they're gonna go, wait a minute, didn't you just raise my rates?
Yes.
And so, but I don't wanna, but we had a home burned down, and I've already talked to the chief about this, about 2 blocks were from where I live, because there was no
No
water pressure.
Right.
And I was the reporter that covered that story and had to go talk to the family to say, oh, that's too bad, what are your thoughts?
I think Carl said it best. I think that's an easy sell.
I think
If
that's
let
what you
the-
have to sell.
And it's like Jan says, be transparent. If you let the city know, here's our rates, we're the lowest by far. In fact, I remember someone saying, these other cities don't like to compare our utility rates to Roy because they're so low. But if we can't fight a fire, if we can't replace those asbestos lines or the 4-inch lines, how many 4-inch lines do we have?
I gave you that map.
I know, you know how much?
But what Brian's saying is that he
I
thinks he's
just
gonna be
thought-
annoyed, the residents are gonna be annoyed.
I'm
going,
saying
"Here's a
two
buck."
raises.
Yeah, 2 raises.
I'm just saying that those are the things, isn't that what we have to balance? We have to balance safety over the next 6 months. But really, if the $2 raise isn't gonna give us what we need to replace the lines, then we should do it when Weaver does it.
Well,
Does
so
that
let's ask
make
that question.
sense?
You're gonna build revenue from July 1st when we implement until November. And what I think the comment you said was, it's what, $40,000 a month?
Yeah, that's 6 times 4 is 240 grand.
Is that going to give you a good start to try to get this thing moving?
Yes, it is.
That could also fund the water meters if we took 240 out of that and you only need 50 or 60,000 left and we could finish the water meters in 1 year. That's,
And I understand your concern, Brian, but I think we did this in the sewer district. It's a sell, but it's easy to say, hey, we're going to increase your bill for the next 5 years, but after that time, you are still medium compared to everybody else in the entire state.
Well, and I think the thing you say is, we're gonna increase your bill by 30%, and you're still gonna be the lowest.
Yep, and you're still underneath everybody else.
I don't know if
And you might get your fire caught.
Yeah, give them that, or
Well,
is there something on that?
You always have those few that are just plain
It's
bad.
all
but the
public
majority-
record,
The
so
majority will
there's
understand,
nothing-
so I think the sale's
But
not that hard.
Well, it's a sell.
It's just the honest truth, is what it comes down to. It's not really a sell, it's just a reasonable explanation for cost and expense, and in order for
True.
us to supply your basic water needs, cost has to
and why
go
do you
up.
think all these other people are raising their rates? North Davis Sewer, Weaver Basin Water, Secondary, Waste Management, they're all raising their rates because they need to for the cost to sustain that service that they're providing. We've been doing pass-through and pass-through and pass-through, but we've never really held any of that money for our operational needs.
Now, throw this out, because we do the North Davis Sewer. We plan for the future. It wasn't just cost for now, it was cost for the future. So these rates went down where they were, what they are, because the next rate won't even be considered until 2025. Because you see the future, you plan for the future for build-out. We're a little different because we're already built out. But you need to make sure you do those and put those steps, because otherwise, you're going to get stuck in a crunch a couple of years from now and ask for a $20 rate. And that's where you get bit in the butt. So you do have to run it as a business side, see it that way, and plan for the future.
I'm just
These-
bringing you the
these
numbers.
starts this
This is where
foundation
we're
for
at.
that.
You're right.
I just think this back-to-back bump is
It's hard.
is really going to annoy some people. Even though we can say, hey, the second bump was on us. But it's going to be on the Roy Potter bill.
I don't, hey, every city gets the hit for North Davis sewer increases, because that's where the bill goes to.
Yeah, but nobody argues about if somebody can't flush their toilet, they're
No, I'm just
they're
saying,
in dire
no matter
need.
what, we are gonna, no matter if it's us or North Davis or Weaver Basin, we're gonna get the hit, because that's just where it goes.
That's right.
That always is what happens. That's just because we are the ones asking for the money.
And in defense to Brian's point, in the spirit of transparency, we tell them what our role is, what we're going to do, and I don't have a problem if one of them says Weaver Basin's going to come at you in November, and they're going to tack another $2 on top
Oh,
of
I
this.
don't, yeah, if
And
we're
tell
going
them
to do
that.
it,
I
let's,
think you tell them up front.
I think you tell them too. I think the transparency, we're a council and a new staff that's transparent with everything. I just think we get as transparent as we can. We get the information out so they know what's ahead, where are we currently at, where do we compare with other cities? And I think if you look at that, and then you look at what we need to do,
Can I, one last question, though. When you guys put in the 36% tax increase, there was money there that was gonna go to infrastructure.
There was an assumption that there would be enough money.
Salaries.
Is that where it,
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it
well,
was-
if you
That's
look,
when
if you
when
look
they
at
put
what we
together the
got.
STEP
that-
because
program.
remember, we had a discussion,
Mhm.
and I thought that we had solved our water rate problem, not the Weber Basin bump, but the first one. What's happened, I'm just asking, what happened since then?
On the water, on the.
We had it had been pointed out to me, this is what the 36% tax increase generates. This is, and there was like, of the 900, there was like,
So the skate rink was, so the salaries were
No, let's stop
600.
right there, because the skate rink
Was-
isn't that tax money. That's one-time
Right.
money, you know, so skate rink isn't included in anything
so
with the
what,
tax rate.
so help me, what was it?
Here's what it bought. It bought a new ambulance. It bought new digital radios.
No, Jay took that back, remember?
Took that back.
Remember, he took that back. We bought our cars with it instead.
Okay.
We didn't get the radio.
Okay, because what was actually proposed during the discussion is it can be spent on infrastructure, parks,
Right.
new ambulance, radios, I mean, the list was in there, and that's what it said. The only thing that was taken off that list is because a conversation, how that spent was the ice rink, and the ice rink was not proposed during that tax increase discussion. And so that was removed that year, and then it came up the following year. So what was purchased from that $700-some-odd-thousand was the things I just mentioned. I'm surprised you didn't get your digital radios.
No, he took that away from us.
Is that what?
I don't know if you knew this, but Carl and Jay, they didn't really know.
We're as tight as we are.
Brian, to answer your question, it was a guessing game to say, okay, we're gonna get this much. I was never sure how much the state pay scale was gonna do, because it was a guessing game.
Right.
So it was kind of fidgety numbers, but basically what it comes down to is that took up the tax rate. With a little bit more for little purchase, but nothing else ongoing. We were taking care of the employees, that 30%, $780,000
Of the 900,000.
straight to personnel.
Can you see the board?
And that was just the compression, and then on top of that,
We're
then
not
they
even
got the
done with
yearly
that.
merit that took up the rest of it.
We haven't even
We
took the
resurfaced the
scale
trail
on that.
too.
Huh?
We resurfaced the trail too.
Oh, did we? You got the picture of the board? Okay,
Yeah.
who's got the picture that you were looking for?
Yeah, I was
Colleen?
trying to find mine. I took a picture of the board too.
All right, well, then I guess we'll just have to educate the residents.
Because I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're like, if we did the property tax, then some of it needs to go to infrastructure, so why are we raising it $2 if it
Well,
should be coming out of
yeah,
the property
you're-
tax increase?
A year later, after we raised, I mean,
Well, with the utility fund, we typically just spend for infrastructure for utilities out of that fund.
So it's not.
So it's just
Oh,
water-based.
that's a
It has
good
nothing to
thing.
do with sales tax, it has
Oh,
nothing to do with
property
property tax. Because that's general fund operations, that's police,
That's a
fire,
good way
parks.
to-
okay,
That's a
then
that's a
not
good
water.
way to
I
word it.
have one last question. It's really not a question, well, it is. If we live our sales tax revenues, like I know we're gonna do, okay? None of this think, we're gonna do it. We're gonna get businesses in here. When we raise those revenues, can sales tax ever be used to help offset some of these, you know what I mean? Can we go back and readjust or relook at or re-examine or?
Yes. For the answer is sales tax will go into the general fund.
Correct, yeah.
They will fund projects out of that general fund. And whether we choose as a council to shift some general fund monies over to help infrastructure, or whether or not he builds his roads only on Class C and only water out of the utility water and sewer bill, he'll have that option. But it means we have excess that we can direct that. To answer your question is, can the council at that time simply go back and say,
Right.
I want to revisit the property tax rate and do a discussion on that? Answer is they can.
Here's the truth though, Brian. Even if you get 10 new fast food businesses, the money you're gonna generate from the sales tax is maybe thousands of dollars. It's not gonna make a difference.
Oh, absolutely.
It won't. The only way you really make money on sales tax is if you sell cars. That's the biggest thing.
That's not true.
Matt,
That's not
So
true.
when you, at the point of sale, the city's only, so you're paying the 725, the city's only
Right.
getting a smaller portion of that.
That's right.
And of that smaller portion, 50% of it goes to the state, and then we get the
Right.
population growth.
Population base and.
So if you're talking a
point
restaurant and stuff, I can't tell you how much a restaurant's gonna make, but if, you know, a $20,000 night sounds pretty good, but that's just one car that you're selling. I think that's where
No,
Dave's saying, if you wanna
there's
make
no
money,
doubt.
sell cars.
Car lots, if we could surround our new, park.
but there
with
is no
car-
10 open spaces to get 10 new businesses. That's where we're landlocked.
There is,
If people want to sell their land, that's
and
the problem.
I understand that, but we have 18
Storefront.
18
storefronts
storefronts
that are empty, that are not generating a nickel.
And the store owners don't care. I mean, they care at a point, but they don't.
But people aren't beating down our
Right.
doors to
To
come
say,
here, that's
right,
my
right,
point.
Right.
And so, and my point is we go out and we get them. And I would not be sitting, I'm telling you, at this table if I couldn't do that. And the movie theater is a first-run movie theater. Roy has never had a first-run movie theater.
But in talking to him, why do you think Clinton is more appealing to him than Roy? It's probably the same question everybody that's going around us, but not to us.
It's an easy sell. It's a newer destination place location. It's cheaper for me to build on an open plan, they'll silt it down, instead of reconstructing, putting my costs into that, and there's established shopping area right there. That's just the
Yeah,
reality of
and
it.
when I go to the movie there, I can also stop at
Boom,
Kohl's
boom,
and I
boom. Yeah,
can
do
go to.
everything I need to do. It's a destination
It's hard,
location.
it's hard.
Which is the reason why we're putting emphasis to develop destinations. You're going to have that answer here in about 2 weeks. We're bringing the Coldwell Banker commercial advisor. He basically does 60-70% of most commercial developments. Will be in a meeting with us in economical development, and he's going to tell us exactly what we have to do to be competitive.
I mean, you've got Desert Book, you got Down Home East, you got Ross,
They're
you
all
got
right in
everything
there.
going to Clinton or Riverdale and nothing to Roy.
Right.
We're trying to get a mom and pop, restaurant here or a dessert shop here,
Right,
begging a theater company and they want to go to our neighbors.
right. This is the
Oh, I don't
challenge.
like your attitude at all.
It's reality though, Brian.
No, it isn't. You
We
know
can
what?
talk to a million people, but if we don't have something good to offer them,
You know
what
what?
good is it?
Well,
For 20
after our
years,
day-
I'm-
our day
and
that
I'll
you're talking
share,
about
I'll just
is
share this, and then you guys can take it from there. For 20 years, I was the reporter that covered Layton City. I can tell you almost where every body is buried in that city, okay? And the bottom line is it is their sales tax revenues that allow them to go back and drop their property taxes.
Yep.
The last 2 years, they've decreased property taxes because of the businesses they have. Now, I realize we're a different model. But the bottom line is you start filling these stores and you start getting our residents to visit them, you will see that flat sales tax revenue figure of roughly, what, 4.2 million last year?
Yeah,
Am I in the ballpark?
3.5, I believe.
Okay?
But tell me as a business owner why I want to come to Roy versus Clinton or Riverdale. Clinton or Riverdale have a lot more to offer me. More foot traffic, more car traffic, newer properties, better surrounding businesses. What does Roy have to offer?
They have us. They have.
God bless you, Brian.
No, I mean, they have us. They have his police services.
I get that.
They have his fire services.
Which doesn't
They-
mean jack to a business, Brian. They
Well,
don't care because they have a nice police.
You know what? If their building's on fire, it
Here's the
means
reality.
everything to them.
In
We have
order
to
for what
present
your
a
grand
package
scheme
to
wants to
these
happen,
people.
you have to be willing to put the money into it. In order for Ogden to be redeveloped, they had to put bonding $1 million to change to become who they are now. You have to put the money in order to do that. You have to rent money in order to destroy it all and begin.
Okay, I'll just tell you this, there's $2 million in your RDA fund.
Yeah.
Just over
Sitting there
2
doing
million.
nothing for 40 years.
Right? And it's because none of the money's been spent. And the money hasn't been spent because we're not bringing in new bodies. So let's go out
That's what
and
you
get
have to
them.
offer them is $2 million in whatever faction we can offer them.
Well,
You're absolutely correct. The secret here, the strategy then, is to set a new path for economic development so that we can strengthen the economy in Roy and generate the revenues that's going to pay for sustaining everything we're proposing.
that's right.
So we're pushing that, and I'll tell you, we're going to keep pushing that as hard as we can until we do that. We have a $2 million seed of money to initiate some pretty interesting things this council will have to approve.
We've got to make
But
it.
the point is, we think we have a strategy to make that work. So if I appear to be a little bit more protective of the RDA money, it's only money that as investment, we might be able to spend our future economic development with. Other than that, there is nothing in this budget that's even going to give us anything to do that.
Right.
Because this budget really is about sustainment of what we already have and improving what we already have. There's not a lot here that's going to talk about new growth or new opportunities, particularly in the economic side.
I think what Brian's talking about is we have to start somewhere,
Right.
and this is the time to start.
Right.
From our past people, we're moving, and we've got more energy, and we have to do something, and we have to start somewhere, and that's what I think Brian's saying. Here it is, now let's get going, and that's why we've been so active on this.
Right.
And that's okay, and I'm
Right.
saying, I don't mean to be dogging Brian, because I'm not, but everything he's done has been tried for the past 30 years.
No, it hasn't.
It has.
That's-
I've had Chris Zimmerman go out and talk to hundreds of businesses, the same thing you're doing, Brian. He's done the same thing. We hired a community economic developer, Tony Reels, spent millions of dollars on that. We've hired advisors, we've contracted with 3 through the past 20 years. We have busted our ass doing what you're doing. So I'm not saying it's not new, I'm saying good luck. But we continue to
Okay.
continually do it.
We've got to make the city more attractive, and we've got to have more things to draw on here.
And I agree, the money needs to be used. We've used the money for a few things, I'll tell you what. We did a roof at Omega. We did a facelift over here on 5600, we gave those guys some money. We tore out the gas station, old gas station up here. Those are the things we've used the RDA money for, all right? We don't want to say, okay, we're gonna let you keep your sales tax, because we never see any revenue from that. We can use that money, it's okay. You got this expensive $10,000 fees, we can use the RDA money to help you take that. Please come into our city. We want you here, we can help you out that way.
Right.
But it takes a while to even, years and years to see that $10,000 to build back into that fund. So this fund is going to be depleted, and you need to understand that, and those back revenues won't come for years and years and years down the road. I'm saying it's the reality of it, but it's what it needs to be used for, because it's been sitting there for 30 years doing nothing.
Right.
Now, I don't disagree, it needs to be used, but that's all we can use that for, to help entice them to say, we'll take care of demolition, we can assist you in demolition of the building, we can assist you with fees, the RDA can pay that for you, please come to Roy City.
Right.
That's what it's.
And that's part of our strategy. So we're going to present that to the council, to the RDA board, and give you some ideas of how we think that might work, and then make sure that we're all on the same page with that. But we believe our best option for the future really rests in trying to develop a more economical, stable baseline. And as you guys remember, those who've read that leakage study, it really did say very clearly, the experts that come and told us, you need to focus on theater, and
Hotel.
hotels. Stop trying to compete with Riverdale. You just won't, you can't compete.
If we can work with this theater group, and if we can get Woodbury to, if they've got 4 options to get rid of the Chinese building and then redo that, that's a huge start that hopefully we think will domino to other businesses saying the same thing. We want that. How do we get our business to look like that? And I think that's where Bob's trying to protect some of that RDA money to allow them the opportunity to do that, to keep that chain reaction going. And hopefully, other developers come in and say, hey, we see Roy's changing, we want to do it. And we're going to propose this in our RDA, because I like the point of maybe going and buying property and then having us kind of develop it, or having the chance to say what goes there and how we do it, and not have a car wash go in behind Burger Bar, which is probably the worst possible thing that could have happened to that area, because that whole corner.
Yeah, who
could've-
proved that?
Well, it was just in the
It's zoning, I mean,
Yeah.
if it's zoned for it, that's what I'm
I
saying.
know, I'm
If
just
we don't
saying.
want a gas station
we
in
can't
Harmons
say
right now,
no.
we better change the zoning so we don't allow a car wa, or a gas station there.
Understand?
Because
That's
we don't
what-
have to come for permission, it's a permitted use.
I
You put in
know,
whatever you
I'm
want.
just kidding.
I'm just glad the focus is turned on Joe now. Because there for a minute,
I would be, we weren't beating you up, I just think we've gotta have a plan
well,
to get these businesses here.
you know what, just so you know, in the last scene of The Rainmaker, it rained on Burt Lancaster.
It's gonna rain on you.
And you
It
said,
will rain.
and you were
for
saying
real.
something about streetlights? I didn't quite catch that.
What'd you say, you wanted to?
No, streetlights is just the next one.
Yeah.
So what a good segue, thanks, Bob. Streetlights. In the past, we've been putting streetlights on both sides of the property. Hey, I'm figuring this out, because there's like $85,000 in here that we may be able to use. Streetlights.
True.
Community pride. We've gone from the Sunset County line to 4800 South, east and west. So now we just need to go from 48 to 3775. I don't know that we have to do that right now. There's $85,000 in there that we could actually put either towards North Park.
I need part of it.
George Wallen.
For
Dollar in the bucket.
Thanks, Joe.
I still need some of that because of that curb and gutter and sidewalk I'm doing from 4,037. We're gonna get the conduit and bases in right
Okay.
now what we're doing.
Okay, so he wants to just get it stubbed, so when we do put streetlights there, it's already done, which makes really good sense.
Yeah, it's.
What is your guys' thoughts of just taking a break for a minute on the streetlights and utilizing that money towards some of our item number 2 and 3? Or we could actually earmark that towards municipal park coming up in a little bit too.
Oh, yeah, I like that idea.
I think there's better ways to use this money and to try to get a couple other things done, which will help us all out in the end.
I agree, because I don't think you get as much bang for your buck on streetlights from there down as you did from 4800
Not
to.
necessarily. Do you know what that's gonna do to light up that area? There's no lighting from 4,800 down to 4,000. You've got you have no commercial, you have no, there's nothing that's really lighting it.
Why don't we have the townhome put them in front of their?
So that's gonna make a
development.
huge, as far as lights go, it's gonna make a huge difference with the lights looking on the street. And it will also light up the sidewalk and things like that for safety issues. and
So do we
stuff.
just do like maybe a couple, like we're continuing to work with the lights?
It's your
and then-
committee. What do you want to do, Carlene?
We just can't do a couple of one here or there.
No,
Once
No,
we
you
start
got-
blowing, you
yeah,
got
once you
bored.
put you gotta put the foundation for
This
all
is
of
the,
it.
so when the lights were done, and we were kind of picking the light and going, okay, we want this type of headlamp, we want this arm, we want different things. The light actually, not gonna throw you Ross under the bus, but the light was only like around maybe 5, maybe 6.
They're 6,500, or 67, and they still are.
Okay, so 67. So it's the
Infrastructure.
boring, it's all the infrastructure to get the light in place that is really the cost, and that continues to go up.
Plant a currant bush next to it.
So, I mean, if we wait, it's gonna increase. The infrastructure cost it's just gonna increase for it.
But you're not programming any money in here, is there? Is there
Yeah.
anything in the budget right now?
Yeah.
$85,000.
But to get,
So that's 8 lights,
but to get her
Yep.
where she
Yeah,
believes it needs to go, it's gonna take a lot more.
or
Yeah.
maybe 7.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're looking at $1 million to go
But-
from 48 to 37.
Okay, but
How close are they, Rob?
but I think with the conversations we've been having tonight, it sounds like there's a lot more other capital projects that really need the funds, more than increasing of the lights. We've made a huge difference, it's made a huge impact. The citizens know that, hey, we're looking at beautification, we're making a change. If we pull back a little bit, then, and put this to some other capital projects, I think it's okay for a year or so, and then just put it in next year's budget, see what we can put in.
Okay.
When we talk about beautification, I look at a scooter shop, a couple of antique shops. I drove into Dr. John's parking lot the other day. The fascia's falling off that.
Don't admit that, Joe.
No, because there's been a bunch of complaints about it.
Monthly membership.
That's just a snippet right there.
There's been a bunch of complaints about it. The fascia's falling off of it and it's full of mold.
Started on
Can-
fire.
It's 'cause they had a fire in it,
and
they
never
won't fix it.
Condemn the building.
Yeah, some building.
Why did you put it out? Jeff, you could have solved the problem.
I know, I told my captain, what was he
Dang, we couldn't get any water pressure.
Please, let me make sure, this truly is a public meeting, and there's a public recording taking place, so we gotta be kind of careful how we talk to these things. Your point's well taken. I think what I've heard, unless there's an exception to this, I think Carlene is suggesting, since she's kind of heading that committee, if there's something else that we think has a higher priority and need, she says, okay, I'll hold back a year, we'll revisit this ongoing
budget.
strategy. And that may give you a little fluid funds, Ross, to the extent it can, so if there's some things that need to be done prep work to get ready for what's coming. Isn't that what you basically
Yes,
said?
yes,
like that.
yes.
Is that
And it's-
workable?
Yes,
Okay.
and there's ongoing beautification ideas and stuff. I mean, when the mayor asked me when I started this over 4 years ago, he says, I want you on beautification, and I says, okay, what money do I have? And he says, you have none. To go from that
40 years from now.
to go to an actual committee with a line item, with money that's actually budgeted into to be able to make a difference in the city is huge from what we've done. And I'm very proud of what we've been able to accomplish. And is there more beautification projects that we can do? Yes. I think it all falls into, what with the area he's talking about, that would, more like a development going in or something like that.
And wouldn't it be nice to say, look at what we've done, residents. We got your employees taken care of. When you call, we're there, you have competent employees, number one. Number two, North Park's done. We truly
George
have a
Wallen, another
destination.
$5
George Wallen.
Hey, I know how to refund.
Yes,
North-
yeah.
I know how to refund-
I'm gonna be able to fund it myself, George Wallen. You got George Wallen Park completed. You have beautification efforts done. You got the water meters complete. So now we can do, monthly billing. And look at municipal. We still need to look at municipal. If we can show all of those areas done, I think the residents will really like seeing some of these projects complete
Okay,
and
so
done.
let's take the 85,000 for the lights. Ross wants, how much of it?
I want to be between 25 and 30 here.
How much?
Okay,
25, 30.
Just right.
okay, so we got 50,000.
Let's put the 50 towards our number 2 project, North Park, if we need it. Number 2, we can put it towards water
You
meters.
just said
And
it
let-
again.
And let's get it done. George Wallen?
No, you didn't say that.
You didn't say.
Go buy,
You know
hey,
what?
go buy 4 pizzas.
I'll
We'll
make
call
one
it
more
square.
other deal. If you say it wrong again, I can get rid of your mission statement.
Wow.
That's high
Hey,
stakes.
That's high stakes.
That is high stakes.
That is. No, because I worked too hard on that business. Okay, everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, perfect. Ice skating rink, I think it's within budget, okay? It's going to cost us about $60,000 a year to operate this.
We're guessing first year, but that's
Right.
what we put in, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and let me say that, as far as our estimates we gave to operate it and our estimates we gave in revenue, they are estimates at best, you know.
And I agree with that. Let me just make a couple of comments so we can kind of understand, from my perspective, the whole picture. There's only a few outdoor ice rinks still left in the communities. We definitely have one in Park City. There's Gallivan Center in Salt Lake. They actually have Peaks one, I think, down in Provo. They have a variety of them still around.
Harriman's in the process of building one
Are they
right now
building?
as we speak.
10 by 10 at Farmington Station.
Yeah, Farmington Station has that little one. That's correct. I think the
Cache County
challenge
always
has to
has
be, is if you go to Park City, it's going to cost you $9 an adult to get on there. If you go down to places like the Galvin Center, I think that's actually $9 too. The ones that I've seen around, they're about $6 for an adult. So if you kind of say that we're going to average $6 an adult and say, okay, that's what the entrance fee is going to get access, and that's access it until you're done. And I don't know how big this is compared to Galvin.
It's bigger.
Okay, so you're probably, in my mind's eye, you can probably put 60 people on this ice rink at any given one time. Is that a fair statement?
They put over 100
Yeah.
themselves, Gallivan does. We went and met with them and they put over 100.
Okay.
But
And we're
yeah.
bigger?
What's that?
We're bigger than Gallivan?
Yeah,
not
we're a
much
little
bigger.
No, and that's fair to say. It's bigger, but you're not talking.
But do we have the appeal to
So
get
if you do the
$100?
numbers at
No.
$6 a head, and you basically say, I'll figure 60, your revenue stream coming in is about $43,000 a year. That's about it. It's going to be higher than that, so you're probably going to match even 60-60. But if everyone I basically have looked at, bottom line is they're sponsored. Gallivan Center has 3 sponsors, okay? They have 2 News, I think, is sponsoring. I think they got Deseret.
Because they're right behind there.
Yeah, they're right there. So they get these sponsors to help pay for it. The interesting thing is Peaks down there in Provo, they basically made it pretty clear. They basically said that, oh, by the way, that the county was not basically paying them to keep the Peaks ice rink open down there in Provo. It wouldn't be open. It's subsidized significantly by the county because it's an attraction and it's a 120-day event. That's about how long they'll run. From early November until about March sometime, you're going to get usage for about 120 days. So here's the question, and it's the question has to be set. This is a $500,000 expense with a $50,000, $60,000 annual expense to sustain. If we're going to you make money on it, you only make money basically if you're doing concessions on the side, because just the money you will make in revenue will only pay for the labor that's going to be managing it. Plus, we carry the expense, a one-time expense for that year. Now, we have a tough choice here. We had the same choice last year. We got 5 years to basically build it, or we're going to send the wrong message to the grant people who authorized a sizable input to this. But is it the right thing to do at this moment, considering all the other things that maybe we need to basically look at? If the answer is that, yeah, we need to do this and get it done, then I say just recognize the fact is it's not going to be profitable. In fact, I'll bet it won't even break even unless you do something else with it. And something else has got to be concessions or something that's going to drive that income. Otherwise, I'm seeing right now at least a $60,000 a year just to sustain it. Now, that's the reality of it. So I don't see this being a moneymaker by any definition.
For me, Bob, it's no different than the outdoor pool. It's the same thing. You hope to break even on it, it'll be the same exact thing, you make a little bit.
And your
more.
community is counting on it?
Correct. And we're not, for me, it's a go. We committed to it. The former council, not this particular body.
That's correct.
But the former council said, no, we're committing to it, we're doing it, let's put the money in it. We did it, we funded it, so it's there. I think it should be a go still. And I recognize everything that you say. It'll never make money, but it's a service to the community, just like our outdoor pool is.
And
Then let's
just
think-
a little bit as it will bring people to
Right.
the city.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, make it
That was the whole
the
original thing.
destination.
But the perception really was is that it's going to be a moneymaker. I don't see that
No,
to be
it's
the
never,
case.
no, we never.
But here's the question is, I don't think we can sustain it unless we get sponsorships. I don't think we can sustain it.
I got a plan. It's not a very good one, but it might work.
At least he's honest.
Transparent.
Anyway, why don't we move forward with the rink and have some of these, put out an RFP to the local businesses to have them do the concessions, and then we generate off of their sales tax revenues that we get to keep, and they generate what they make. Does that make sense? I mean, you send it out as a community thing. You say,
Tonight is Little Caesar's night. Is that what
Yeah.
you're thinking?
yeah,
But I'm
Tonight
thinking you'd
is
probably make more
B's
profit
night.
off concessions than you would off sales tax.
I think you could kill it, Travis. I think you could kill it if we did it ourselves and not outsourced
We get sales tax
it.
too.
If you sold hot chocolate and donuts and then pizza by the slice and you just did it, only those three things, I think we would make a great penny on the concessions. And I think that would take us above, because didn't the other people with concessions that say they do that, they do well with concessions?
We talked a lot with a guy down at Midway, and he was pretty boastful, but he had some pretty astronomical figures of
For
how much
concessions.
hot chocolate he sells in a season.
He told us he sold 10,000 cups of hot chocolate.
I
$3
didn't want
a
it
piece.
said.
The Midway Ice Rink is actually the biggest in the state.
Yes.
It's a massive one, and you could
Yes.
probably put 200 or 300 people on that one. It's that big. I think you just need to look at this as a business, Travis, and look at that. If the council's basically supporting the idea that simply says, we're going to put an ice rink in, we've got the funding in place to make that happen, then I ask, maybe, and it's the council's decision, not the mayor's, then I say, look at it a little broader. Is there some way we can increase the revenue stream so that we can benefit from it? Because right now, I don't think we're going to break even. If we do, we'd be lucky to sustain it. And remember, you're only going to do it for 120 days. What makes the Gallivan Center very profitable is it's an all-year event. So
Well,
they have
plus
ice
they bring
rinks.
in bands and local
They
stuff.
bring bands in the summer. It's a big event all the time.
A good point, Bob. I mean, we'll sell it the best we can, great ideas, whatever we can come up with to make it more profitable, even though it's, we want it to be that ultimate goal, to be able to self-sustain.
Right.
The first year or so, it's gonna take some time.
I think it's going to be a slow process,
Yeah.
but I think
Right, it's
when
a
it
great
gets
idea, great way to go,
momentum.
yeah.
I
But
mean,
you
you
get
look
some
at your
sponsors.
community events,
I think
though.
we're gonna kill it.
You
I
get
would-
people.
Surprised. Once the
Yeah,
thing
and
is
I was
done,
gonna
it's be-
say, if, and your businesses on your economic development too, I mean, if you say, look at these services that
build it,
are
they will
coming.
come, and this is one of
Yeah,
those
yeah,
things.
that is
Well,
you
unique
gotta
to
start it.
Roy.
It's unique.
We already took pictures, we already said it's coming, it's been out on Facebook, everybody's excited about it.
Oh, if it's on Facebook, it's reality.
Just like The
Just
Rock.
saying. Yeah.
Good.
Okay, library. The old library, you guys got my email about when we're gonna take ownership of it. Not gonna be till probably June. It's gonna be a couple $100,000 to remodel, to put probably the recreation department over there. Is that 200,000 that we wanna spend, is that a priority this year? To me, it's low on the priority list. That's
No,
just-
not at this time. I don't think we can afford to do anything with it at this point. What do you guys think?
It's definitely low on my priority
Yeah,
list.
me too. I mean, it's just not
Just
out
make a
there
move
yet.
in that.
I'm the one that's supposed to move there, and I would tell you I'd rather have the $200,000 for something
For
else.
something else.
Really?
Right. For
Well, I
George
was
Wallen.
gonna say, yeah, it's all
Okay.
set up, just
Okay.
card tables, some chairs.
Pickleball, remember us?
We're good. I mean, we have a home.
Move right
We
in.
have a nice home.
We own it. I
Yeah,
just
you
want
want your home.
to point out, let's
He
make sure
wants
we
to
clean it up.
expand.
I
drive
told
by
him
there
he could
now.
have
Looks
my
like it'd be a
office,
nice week to
and we'll do
pick up
another
the
one in
weeds and
that
stuff.
conference
Make sure
room
it stays.
area. I'm fine,
Okay.
I don't need much.
Yeah, you don't want to,
Give me 40
Okay,
hours.
the
we'll just make
bathroom.
sure the building's clean, and we'll just save that for another project. We got a lot of other stuff that's a lot more priority. Utility funds, this is gonna be easy for us because we already discussed these in great lengths. We talked about the water. Looks like we're gonna look at a $2, and is that a $2 per year for 3 years? Okay. That's gonna take care of a lot for the water. We don't need to go over that. Stormwater. We feel that this fund is adequate for now. You good with that, Ross? Matt's good with it. Solid waste fund. Solid waste is going to, there's gonna be a tipping increase, a tipping fee increase, and a collection of pickup fee by Waste Management. This is gonna be a pass-through.
Matt, let's talk about this.
Sure.
Okay. We did away with the dumpster program. Saved us, I don't know, what was Kathy's number, 100,000, somewhere
I
around there?
think it was, yeah, we still have funding going toward it for
So we
certain
decided
weeks
to
of
do
the year.
nothing with that money, to see what would happen, to be there, to see what comes on. Now, I don't know if it's true, but I think my understanding is, well, these freeze eat up everything and we don't have anything left. Is that accurate? Or
No, we still have about $125,000 going back into retained earnings after year. So right now, we're increasing the tipping fees, which the city has to pay for the tipping fee portion, and the city pays for the waste management pickup portion.
And how much will that take out of the 125?
The 125, it's like $14,000 a year, I think, for the tipping fees alone. But the increase, the projections is that for one can, effective July 1st, you'd go from $485 up to $499. So you're not talking about a substantial increase, but I can't tell you that $125,000 what we're putting back into retained earnings would cover all of it. We need to look into that. It's going to be, I would say,
Close.
it would be close, I would say.
Yeah, the only concern I've got, Ross, and you can help me with this, because this is an organization, you don't have bodies in there, do you?
No.
Yeah, and
We
yet,
did, well, no, we helped during the dumpster.
just those 2 weeks,
And 2 weeks
twice
in the fall.
a year. I was just wondering about, you've got roughly, you're budgeting almost $30,000 in things that typically would be involved if there was people in there. I think it's because the program you run does a split. So you're talking about books and travel, and training, and office
It's
supplies.
because the utility fund out front, they're paying for the audits, they're paying for travel training, they're paying for different things like that, yes.
Telephones. I just wonder if in fact you might be able to achieve some cost savings for the human components within that budget that are not there, recognizing that everything else, I mean, there's some other 500,000, 680,000. These are large things you're paying bills with, I suspect.
That's him.
Yeah.
You are.
Not me.
So I'm just saying is that how close are we with what you've got in reserve that's going to allow us to carry through as much as we can on the solid waste?
We're
increase?
really close, because we have the 125,000, and I just got these numbers in yesterday. And so when I initially talked to her, to Beth, the one that came to city council, she was saying that there were going to be a substantially more than what I initially anticipated. So now when I look at them, as of yesterday, I'm thinking, okay, we have the 125,000, but what that's going to do is the money that we are saving for not doing the program
Right.
is going to be gobbled up.
Right.
And we, if we're planning on spending more or charging more for water, it might be good that we don't, we conserve on this.
The only thing that I know that the beautification committee was looking at is they simply says they may want to factor in, Ross, some type of a dumpster, maybe a dumpster weekend or something, key places around the city where she gets the communities working together.
It can't be
And
out
say
there
the
more
city will
than-
provide that.
We can't have them there overnight, though.
Right, it's like, yeah.
So I had a thought on the dumpster. I don't remember if I talked to you. I think I talked to you about it. But what if, right to the west of his building, I can't remember what's there, but what if you built a covered awning and put the dumpsters and gates in front of it, and you open that up during the week, on the weekends, people can come dump, somebody shuts it off at night.
That'd be up to, you have to still have a place for them to drain into. We have to drain them into
A sewer.
sewer. It's just, can't be distant on them. So,
That's the most important thing, right, is they drain into a
So
sewer
where they're
system.
sitting right now, are they draining into a sewer?
if they drain, they'll go over in that corner for right now, but we control it a lot better. If it starts to rain, we just move them, so.
I was just thinking, you know, if you could have them where public could have a little more access to them.
If they have access to them and we're not controlling them, I've had the biggest garbage dump you could imagine in front of.
Well, no, that's what I say. I mean, it would have to be almost during work hours, other than on a Saturday, but you still have somebody shut the gates at
And then you're
6
gonna
o'clock.
hire the employees to sit out there and drivers to haul.
Understand.
So,
Yeah. So I guess, okay, so based on what you're indicating, Matt, here's the question. What are we going to pass through, or do we need to pass through this year, any increase of solid waste fund?
Are you talking between now and July 1st?
No, that one you're going to absorb.
Yeah, we're gonna
Talking about
absorb
July.
that because and then I just pulled up the figures, so right now we have $107,000 going back that we're collecting more than we're spending out.
Correct.
So that, we're gonna be pretty close of not having to do anything.
But it will take.
But it
all of
depends,
the 107.
it will take, yeah, everything that we have, but there's always the discussion, just
It'll take
like,
all 107,000.
Oh, okay.
just like we were just discussing, if we want more programming,
Right.
we don't have the funding for it then.
So are you telling the council then we could get through another year?
I'm hoping so, yes. I haven't
Okay.
crunched the numbers,
With no
but we're
increase?
gonna be
Close.
close,
Okay,
ballpark.
Nice.
Okay.
are you okay with that?
Like that, and just do the $2.
Just for the water.
On the water.
Yep.
I don't think you can start.
Right. So I agree. We're good.
Nickel and diamond into
I'll
that.
make that work.
I'm a resident.
Okay. Good on solid waste?
Yes.
Hey, last slide,
Almost.
capital fund. Well, there's still discussions, but the capital fund is what I would like to do, and a lot of other city managers are doing this in councils, is they're developing a capital project fund. So how we would put money into this capital project fund is probably 90% of it is when departments at the end of the year are fiscally responsible and they say, okay, we are going to turn back, each department turns back, and on average, we've turned back, was it a couple hundred thousand? That we would just put that couple $100,000, instead of back into the fund balance, we stick it in a capital project fund. So then the next year, we look at it and say, okay, what do we have in capital project fund? We have $200,000. So when these guys are asking for a truck, or a shed, or a barn, or whatever they're asking for, we can look at it and say, okay, we have money in a capital project fund, we can do, what's the priorities? So I'd like to do that. Instead of putting it back in their reserve fund, they just put it in capital project fund. So our reserve fund always stays at the 18%. The money that we get on top of that, we put it into a capital project fund, which will look a lot better to the public, instead of saying, geez, now you're 20% or you're 21%, now we got to spend it back down. No, we're taking that and we're earmarking it to a capital project fund,
Okay.
which is, I
That's
think,
a good idea.
I think it's a
That's
smart
reasonable
idea.
request, yeah.
So,
Just a question on that, because prior years, they would use that refund money to balance the next year's budget. Are you gonna make sure that doesn't happen? Or are
Did
you
it
still going
balance?
to be doing that? What are we
No, I
looking to-
think that money is always, traditionally is where you would come up with the, coming out of fund balance, just like we did this year, the 1.2. It built up over years and then we spend it.
Okay.
Or
Just-
like
just-
going through next year, there's gonna be things that come up. And if sales tax isn't going up or something isn't going up, you have no other choice rather than to take from fund balance.
Could we only leave that as a capital project fund, or if we run into trouble and we need more money, can we shift it in
We-
like we would?
I've never seen it being moved
Like
back
it's
and
fund
forth, because once you send it over there, it should be
Make
allocated
it
money
dedicated
for
restricted
something.
fund.
Correct.
Yeah, because I like it if it wasn't restricted. That's the only thing I wondered about.
And if you wanted to keep it unrestricted, then you would have to keep it in the general fund. You'd want to keep it in the general fund. But then you come up against that 25%. A lot of cities, when I talk to other finance staff, this is what they're doing, is they're not they're taking the money over to capital projects and buying all their capital equipment. But if you want anything, you spend it out of there.
Yeah, either way.
So I have a question, Matt. I mean, is there incentive for them to not spend it? I mean, what's the incentive if it's going to immediately roll over into a capital fund?
I think there's an ongoing need for capital projects. I think when we went through the budget
So they-
process, a lot of these
So they would
projects-
understand that my project might get funded.
From this capital project.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I
that-
think that we have just all been responsible.
Yeah.
Fiscally.
Traditionally, we don't get to the end of the year and have a giant spending spree. We've all been really responsible with it. I mean,
But if you thought you were going to turn it over to Parks
do.
and Recreation, you'd be fine with that?
but we've turned it back in before, and wherever they take it, it's,
Okay, that would be my question too.
Usually it just goes into fund balance, and then depending on how much they turn back in, then we have a free-for-all, because we want to get to the 18%, but we're at 23 or 24%, and they say, hey, we got 600,000 to spend. I just don't think it looks good that way. I think we
So
ought to
it would look
earmark-
better if it
would
were
look
in
better
there.
if we earmarked that into a capital project fund, and then pulled out of that project fund for capital needs.
You know, Andy makes a good point he just mentioned. I mean, it's a good idea, but there's also risk involved. Say like, we want to do just a bonus. One year, we didn't have the money. We do the capital project, we can't use that money for that.
Oh, 'cause it's-
Because it's just.
'Cause it's restricted.
restricted to capital projects. So, I mean, it's a good idea, but it also comes with the
Half it.
downsides on one side.
Well, I
Half
think
it?
there's the flip side, because if
Half go in
you take,
capital, half go in general?
if you take this capital and you spend it for capital, then you're freeing up all that other capital that they may need, so you may be able to do those one-time bonuses or something else. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's either way.
yeah.
You could do it for a year or two.
Yeah.
Just
Or you
see.
could split it, as Carleen suggested, take half of it, go one way, half the other way, leave it.
You
in
want
the
to put
fund balance.
50% in a capital project fund and put
Half
50%
in the general.
in just the general fund?
And see how it works. If it works well for you, then we can start to move it maybe 60 or 80-40 or 80-20.
Just try it for a year or so and see.
See if it
Because
works.
then it comes down to, like Andy was saying, if it comes down, or, sales money's not
Why does it
there, or
make a
something's not
dedicated
there.
fund if we just say it's that?
When you put it over the capital projects, it's intended to be ongoing, just like the North Park. You send. Are we doing away with the vision statement? Is that what we're doing?
$5 to make you holler. Hey, as soon as she said that, I went, oh, they've been waiting.
They said you
George
are.
Law, it's intended to
Like
be
a pack of wolves on
allocated
an
for
injured
a specific purpose, and that's why it doesn't go against the 25%.
Yeah.
So when you send it over there, it should have a purpose, like a vehicle or some big project.
You fit the bill.
Okay, one last thing before we open up for questions. Municipal park.
Yeah.
Can we take?
Brian's got to fund that somehow.
Can we take care of municipal parks somehow? The presentation was $200,000 at the max. And if we could do the Frisbee golf, put some of those park benches,
we got to redo some of that trail.
I gotta be honest
Bob?
with you, I wasn't impressed with the idea, because me and you went to North Carolina, and they had one of those parks that was not used at all.
Well,
They
it may have
they
been.
admitted it was
Well,
not worth the effort to put it.
it's interesting they're talking about putting exercise equipment there, because at West Haven Elementary, where my son goes to school, in the 6th grade area, they've got that exercise equipment. They just did a big fundraiser to get rid of it and put in a traditional playground. Because nobody uses it.
I don't think it's a great idea. I don't see that they've been successful wherever they've been putting that specific workout.
Maybe a couple of Frisbee things to
I'd like
do,
to
Frisbee
do-
golf,
yeah,
but
the
other than
Frisbee
that.
golf.
Can we redo the trail?
Yeah.
Put the Frisbee golf and
And
make it.
benches.
And some
And the
benches,
benches.
and make it a little bit more friendly without the 200, and say we spend $199,926.
What?
I said you call it
Show me the
Chick-fil-A
money.
Municipal Park.
Show me the money.
I know George Wallen Park is the most important. I get that, but it would be nice to hit another thing with municipal to show the community, look at what we've done.
It sure would.
you know.
Show me the money, brother. Show me where you're getting the money from, because we are there.
Chick-fil-A.
We'll take it out of Andy's budget, delete it.
Where, where are we, I mean, where could we possibly
RDA.
get the money from?
Well, yeah.
Eliminate there, and donate the money to the park.
What little business we show. We can bring back the old pool.
Rich.
Okay, one last thought.
So where are you thinking about the money coming
Well,
from?
He's got to find that.
Yeah, I.
Right now, zero.
Yeah.
Pie in the sky.
Yeah.
Okay.
And some of that money could be from the funds being turned back in.
Yeah.
That we could be taking over to the capital projects fund and then allocating upon approval toward those.
Logic said,
Rob
yes, ma'am,
Peter to
the
pay
comment
Paul.
is, as they get closer to the end of the fiscal year, and I think, Chief, you're right on, there may very well be extra money that you're not spending. That may give you, Jason, with the extra coming in at the end of this year, could give you a little bounce to get the municipal part looked at.
Right.
Dave's point was, show us the money, and then I think with that, the council can support what you're thinking.
And we won't see that money until like October, so.
Until the books are closed, yeah.
Right, so that's gonna be a little bit anyway that we could just put into the capital project and just look at that.
But there might be some things that Travis can do to try to enhance that park anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
The trail and some of the other things in there, I think might help that.
No, I've talked with Councilman Saxton, and I'll set up a meeting with him, and we're gonna go over a couple items so we can potentially look.
Talk to me about the trail again. Where is that?
It's just-
That goes
There's a
through-
walking
around
trail
it.
around it.
Beautiful.
I think it was the very first one around any park in Roy City.
Yeah, I think so.
And it gets used.
Oh,
yeah.
does it
Oh,
get
yeah.
used?
Every walking trail in every park is killer. That's probably the main use of the parks for a lot of people.
There's some.
I'm glad they patched some of the holes in Emma Russell's walking trail. That was nice.
Much better down there. Anything else before we go around the room?
Nope, nope. So this is gonna prepare us with some questions asked, obviously. This will prepare us to do the preliminary budget document. That'll be a big document, but that document is gonna be based off of this discussion.
Right.
We'll go back to the minutes, Morgan will record it, we'll look at it, and we will do the preliminary budget based on tonight's discussion. We do need to set another meeting for May, to give us some time to do the preliminary budget. So before we leave, I'd like to set our next budget if we can, giving us enough time to do the preliminary budget.
We'll have to have the preliminary budget to you in the council meeting, the first meeting in May.
Right.
Like, so you'll have to have it for that meeting. By state
Which I think
statute.
is May 1st.
Yes, it is May 1st.
So we'll have to have that done by May
Before,
1st.
yeah.
Is everybody okay with that?
So we'll present it to you May 1st in a council meeting, and then we can have another work session
If necessary.
if necessary to go over it. But basically, the things that we put in that preliminary budget is tonight's discussion, so. Okay?
If there might be a couple of revenue increases, like if I have to recognize revenue for the ice skating rink, or there might be changes like that.
Waiting or whatever, okay. Anything else, Jason? You okay?
No, that was 3 hours of talk, so yeah.
Let's go around the room. Chief?
No, I don't have anything on budget, but just, I've been tracking, we had a motorcycle car accident at 2,700 and 6,000 tonight. The motorcyclist wasn't wearing a helmet. He's been life flighted but not expected to make it. So since we've had those people call and complain anyway and come to meetings, I would expect that next Tuesday we may have people coming and complaining about that intersection.
This is 27 and 6.
I don't know.
I've never heard him complain about, I've heard him
It's
complain about 31.
31 and 6.
No, we get a lot of complaints about 27 too.
It's the same.
Any
issue.
place along 6,000. You know, the deciding factor here is he wasn't wearing a helmet.
Chief, do you know how old he was?
Don't know.
Thanks for
That's
that,
awful.
Chief.
Sorry.
Chief?
I'm always gonna wonder if it's okay.
Ross? I have nothing. Travis? Andy? Dave? I've got just one little thing. I'm just going to ask the council, I'd like to reach out to the property owner that's on 3100 West and 6,000. There's a 12-acre piece of property out there. I know who it owns it. That organization is receptive to community issues. I'd like to reach out just in conversation with them and see if they would consider basically either giving or selling that property at a reasonable price to the city to put a cemetery. The organization fundamentally supports cities in this endeavor. They don't do it for anything else, but they do it for this endeavor. If in fact the council allows me just to reach out and make contact. No commitments, but I didn't want to make any contact with them until the council says you feel that's okay, just to reach out.
The only thing I'd say is we need to do that soil test as a conjunction of it,
Yeah.
to just make sure.
To firm it up, we'd have to assure that you can, we can basically drain any water if that was to be. And it probably wouldn't be a deep cemetery at best, probably just a surface, couldn't do a double, but I think bottom line is that if you kind of look at the whole scenario,
It's
just to
about
give you kind of
one of the
perspective.
only lands.
That's about all that's left.
Let me ask, so you're
be
asking
able
for
to
a
work.
donation of the land or a purchase of the land, which we could?
Not sure which way it's
We
going
have
to
to see
go.
what it looks like.
But they got it as a freebie. And
Okay.
And since it was a freebie, we're hearing the church does basically entertain the needs of cities in these particular kind of situations. And I say, if they are, if they're willing,
Yeah.
we'll ask the
Yeah.
question. You okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, and I want to share that with you because at $800 a plot, you can basically put about 1,250 plots per acre. And that doubles if you go stack. And I don't need to tell you what the revenue stream would be over the life of that, after that cemetery, but that's the size
Do you
of
want
the
me to
revenue.
find out who's over the real estate department in that group?
Not going that way.
Okay.
I've been advised and I've been talking with religious leaders, and they say go a different way, and that's the way I think is best. I'll let you know, okay?
Okay.
Carleen, anything?
No?
Brian?
Just one question. Is there any way we can take one of those question marks off of municipal park? I think you had 4. Can we maybe eliminate one? Because I have nothing to go home with except a $2 increase
Yep, that's,
in my water bill.
that's
And
true.
there was a lot of people in that area, that park, voted.
Right.
Let me think, Jason, here's what I would suggest. And Matt, you know this, okay? I think the chief said it best. He says, we are good stewards of the taxpayers' money. I come to an organization, Jan, that if there's a dime left, if federal funds at the end of the fiscal year, they will spend that dime. I heard that that's not how they do it here. I'll bet you Nichols of Donuts history will tell you, you'll probably come up with an extra $30,000 or $40,000. It might very well be, if that has been proven, and you've seen that evidence over the years, then I think that could be a revenue stream to address the municipal park. And in all fairness to Councilman Saxton, he knows and other people know municipal park really does need to have a facelift. Whatever that is, even if it's simple, I think it's a good place to start. And as much we've done with all the other parks, they've done very well. Municipal has not got that facelift. I think he could carry a message back that there could be some money at the end of the year that could give him that kind of leverage if it looks like there is. And so I think, Brian, if he just simply says, hey, if we can find the money, you'll make your commitment.
I just want to be able to go to church on Sunday.
I think there might be a few thousand left over from not the pickleball in the North Park, or George Wallace. We
Let's
might be
get
able
the
to
$5
do
back.
I think
That's all right. You owe 40, so it's.
You know what, if we can make this meeting last 1 hour longer, if we can take
We already got
all of what's been
dishes.
thrown into the bucket, we pay for the improvements
Like I
of
said, it's a
municipal park.
generation thing. It's going to kill all of us with
I
tonight.
like it.
Joe Paul, comment.
Just happy to be here.
Jen,
Yeah, it was
Morgan,
Good
thanks for
meeting.
joining us.
very nice.
Anything you'd like to share? Okay, Matt? Closing comment, Jason?
What do you guys think about the budget process? It was Matt and I's first budget. We wanted to be open, transparent, so we tried to do our homework and
It was a lot, it flowed, it was a lot easier to understand, and like I said earlier, I loved just getting the 30 pages teaser
yeah.
for us to go through. I think
It
that
just gives you a
was
quick
better
snapshot
than
because really the
150
discussions
pages all
tonight.
at once.
Great.
Yeah.
And it allows him to focus now the budget to specifically this council's position,
Yeah.
and I think it'll flow easier through the review.
So May 1st will be the preliminary budget. We won't get into the weeds of it, but here's the preliminary budget, and
Yeah.
kind of just a quick snapshot. And if you guys like it, maybe we can get that out a week ahead. I don't know, that's a lot asking for Matt. But if we can, Yeah, if we can, look at it, and if there is a need, I'm happy to meet again to just kind of go over some of it, or we can do it as a work session after council, whatever, but.
What's the city's total budget? I mean, not just general fund, but
28-ish.
about
28,000.
28.
28 million.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all right.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, second?
Second.
All in favor, council?
Bye.
Out of here. Thanks.